has drawn parallels. It was always unavoidable that it was going to do that, to draw parallels with the downfall of the former crime intelligence chief, Richard Mdluli, right? So the arrest comes amid broader patterns of infighting, allegations of abuse of state funds, and the criminal accusations that continue to undermine what is, in essence, one of the country's most vital policing divisions, given the crime problem that we face. So here we go again, another crime intelligence boss facing all sorts of allegations and in the dock. So a bit later on in the show, in the second hour, we'll be talking to Ian Cameron, that is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police in Parliament, just weighing in. He observes these matters quite closely, does Ian Cameron, and it did even before becoming a member of Parliament. So we'll talk to him in the second hour of the show, just the implications for the stability and continuity within crime intelligence. Another story that we will touch on throughout the course of the show is the story around the national governing coalition known as the Government of National Unity. It appears to have weathered yet another storm, but not without some bruises, I suppose. The Democratic Alliance ultimately deciding to stay and fight within the national government setup, despite the sacking of its member, Andrew Whitfield, from the position of Deputy Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. So, and President Cyril Ramaphosa, of course, you'll remember, rejected the party's ultimatum for him to also fire errant ANC-aligned ministers. The DA is withdrawing, not from the Government of National Unity, but from the national dialogue process. Importantly, it's resolved to not support the budget votes of ANC ministers implicated in corruption and other malfeasance. We'll bring you more perspectives on that story, but I would also want to hear from you what you make of the latest developments and how the DA maneuvered out of that situation that we were talking about towards the end of last week, when it was said all bets were off in terms of how the party was likely to respond. And then I want to tell you this story, which is also coming up in the second hour. Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts, that is SCOPA, plans to launch a full-on parliamentary probe into the road accident fund. It's a story that has been brewing and percolating for quite some time. So the intention of the parliamentary probe will be to try and to get to the bottom of governance weaknesses and failures at the state compensation entity. But each passing day appears to point to the RAF being the scene of an ugly governance crash. Get it? Road accident, crash. Yeah, I tried. The latest revelations, of course, have come from the reporting of the Sunday Times, who have reported that the suspended RAF CEO, Collins Letswalo, may be among the best protected people in the country. Certainly better than most CEOs of state-owned entities, possibly third only to President Cyril Ramaphosa and his deputy, Paul Mashatile. Get this, the newspaper revealing that Collins Letswalo, that his 10 million rand security detail consists of 9 bodyguards for him and his family, an armored luxury BMW SUV, and 3 high-performance VW Golf 8 vehicles. So SCOPA chairperson Songezo Zibi will join me at about 7:10 to expand on what the planned parliamentary inquiry will achieve that the RAF's regular accounting to the committee has not been able to do. So that's coming up in the second hour of the show. And lastly, very quickly, let me squeeze this in. Where do you get your news updates from? Sure. Granted, it may be multiple sources to complete your picture, multiple sources on the same picture, on the same story over a period of time. But what's your route one go-to in terms of getting quick updates and perhaps even detailed insights? Hopefully your answer, of course, is, well, of course, SAFM. But get this, the 2025 Reuters Institute Digital News Report has revealed that South African news audiences are moving away from traditional sources like print and broadcast and are increasingly turning to social media and video platforms for their news. So the report reveals that 33% of South Africans now use TikTok for news, while 42% rely on YouTube. We'll discuss this in the third hour of the show at about 7:20 with the Deputy CEO CEO of Code for Africa, Chris Roper. Morning Brief team, to your stations, please, for the takeoff. And Musa has your hourly and half-hourly news updates. Rob Byrne with your traffic updates. Zaikan has got your sports covered. Melissa Buta will complete the picture for you with the Morning Brief in brief. Dauleng Lechela will be, as she always is, right on the money with your economics, business and market updates. And More Africa, Sipho Mantula with your Africa update at about 20 to 7. Your calls, 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes 061 410 4107. So, what are we waiting for? Let's get the Monday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
This week on BBC Primetime, watching TV could make you a winner. It's the BBC Primetime Watch and Win competition. Just tune into your BBC Primetime shows, answer a few simple questions on S3's TikTok account, and you could walk away with awesome prizes. From thrilling dramas to jaw-dropping reality shows, the more you watch, the more chances you have to win. Watch, answer, win. Only on BBC Primetime. Airs weeknights 9 to 11 p.m. on S3. Your couch just became the best seat in the game.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, the hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to WeBuy Cars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy prams that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. WeBuy Cars. Geared for family, geared for you.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
Here to kick us off with this morning's briefing session is Melissa Buta. She's live and direct in studio once again. Melissa, good morning. Let's start with this story. It's a bit disturbing. It has to do with City Power officials and their ability to get on with the work without being intimidated.
Morning, Thulasizwe. City Power suspended power restoration in Maibuye after technicians were held hostage and threatened during maintenance work. The outage stems from widespread illegal connections and meter tampering, which have caused repeated overloading. City Power emphasized that staff safety is paramount and said power will remain off until the community ensures technician safety and allows a full meter audit and cooperates in restoring tampered meters. With only 500 out of over 1,000 installed meters are being used legally, the utility warned that continued interference makes reliable supply impossible. City Power urged residents to end unlawful behavior and engage constructively.
And the Democratic Alliance making a startling allegation regarding the processing, of people who are deceased, who die while in hospital at Helen Joseph, and linking what it's saying are problems there with shortages of printer cartridges. But we're hearing from the department responding to that allegation.
Yes, so this is quite a concerning one. The Gauteng Department of Health has rejected claims by the DA that corpses at Helen Joseph Hospital remained unprocessed due to a lack of printer cartridges. The spokesperson Mutaletale Mudiba clarified that only one body of a patient declared dead on arrival remains and is scheduled to be transferred to the forensic team. While the hospital did face a printing service disruption between the 17th and the 23rd of June due to delayed payments, contingency measures were implemented and all pending cases were resolved by the 24th of June. The department dismissed the DA's claims and has said that this is misleading and politically motivated.
Sure. Curiouser and curiouser. Talk to me about the returning soldiers. I've seen a lot of these videos and they're beautiful, reunited with their families, and someone had the bright idea to just capture those moments. But away from those beautiful moments, there are some concerns about allowances.
Yes. So the SANDF held an urgent meeting with the South African National Defence Union after soldiers publicly complained about unpaid allowances from their 15-month deployment in the DRC, claiming they are owed up to 600,000 each. The SANDF criticized Sandu for bypassing internal communication channels, warning this could harm troop morale and command structures. Despite the tensions, the meeting is said to have been constructive, and both parties have committed to ongoing discussions to resolve the issue with the follow-up meeting planned. So hopefully they get their money.
I wonder which one undermines troop morale more. Is it Sandu going public, or is it the soldiers not being paid what is due to them? Like that's
you would question
anyway,
that.
Aspume lapo, let's get out of that corner. Melissa, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta there with your morning brief in brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
On the weather front, hey, look at that. No weather warnings whatsoever from the weather service, which suits me just fine. Let's start with the weather in Pretoria, where it will be fine with a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 18. Johannesburg, fine 2 to 15. Mbombela, fine 6 to 20. Polokwane will be fine with a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 19. Mahikeng, fine 2 to 18. Bloemfontein, fine -1 to 17. Kimberley will be fine with a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 18. Uppington, fine 4 to 23. Cape Town will have morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy, with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 18. George, fine 11 to 22. Gqeberha, fine 13 to 24. East London, fine 15 to 22. Durban will be partly cloudy in the morning, otherwise fine with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 22. Richards Bay, partly cloudy in the morning, otherwise fine, 13 to 24. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will be fine with a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 20.
The National Arts Festival is back. South Africa's biggest celebration of the arts is on. From the 26th of June to the 6th of July, Makhanda becomes the stage for South Africa's boldest theatre, dance, music, arts, comedy, and more. Experience the creative energy, markets, exhibitions, and many surprises. It's where the country comes to create and the world takes notice. Browse the program and book now at nationalartsfestival.co.za. Own it, celebrate it, be there. Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
All right, let's turn to the story now. Thousands of demonstrators took to the streets of Bangkok in Thailand's largest protest since 2023, demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra. My apologies. Paetongtarn Shinawatra. The uproar was sparked by a leaked phone call with former Cambodian leader Hun Sen, in which Paetongtarn appeared to downplay the Thai military's role in a border dispute and referred to Hun Sen in familiar terms. The fallout from the call has intensified long-standing political divides and rekindled opposition to the influential Shinawatra family. Joining me now is Professor David Munyai, who is the director for the Center of Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time once again. So these protests have been sparked by the coming to light of a recent call between Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra and the former Cambodian leader Hun Sen, specifically Shinawatra addressing Sen as quote-unquote uncle, and speaking almost disparagingly of the Thai military commander who was handling a border dispute between the two countries. It suggests to me that there is a context to all of this that explains why this has offended the sensibilities of so many Thais. What's the context?
The context is that the Prime Minister's utterance is just a trigger. There's a context in which the monarchy itself and the military seem wanting to maintain the status quo. There's been endless military coups, while the Prime Minister's utterances in themselves are not as bad. However, it just angered a group of military juntas that really want to push her out. And this is not the first time. It occurs periodically. Her father confronted more or less similar thing. And
this is Thaksin Shinawatra, yeah?
Indeed, and the manner in which in the recording, I mean, she referred to the Cambodian Prime Minister or former head as uncle. So there's that relationship between that Cambodian as well as her father. So it's an ongoing politics within Thailand that seeks to really erode democratic gains that she seemed to be pushing in terms of constitutional reforms. And chances are high that she might not politically survive this saga.
Well, that's interesting because, I mean, she's new in the position, isn't she? It's no more than, 10 months that she's been in position. But of course, she's not the first Shinawatra to either hold office or contest for office.
Oh, indeed. There's the auntie that was in power, as well as her father. So 2006 and 2014, both the father as well as the auntie were lost power due to the military as well as the monarchy. As it stands, the monarchy is very unpopular, the current monarchy. However, the military itself seems to be getting into politics, trying to change the constitution. All this was triggered by her move, trying to change the constitution and ensure that there should never be any coups in Thailand.
And how influential does her father remain? I mean, he returned from exile late last year. And I'm just wondering, because this is one of those families, right? You can either call it a dynasty or it continues to be a politically influential family within Thai politics.
The father is very divisive. As it stands, he's facing trials, and chances are very also high that they will lock him up for 10 to 15 years. So behind all this smoke screen, I think the Thai economy is not doing well. It's going to grow with 2.3%, according to IMF and World Bank, as well as the current global landscape in which the tariffs, it's also facing stiff tariff from Donald Trump presidency recently. And therefore, I think one should also see that the economy not doing well, and therefore this is a tendency of bringing more people on the street. However, the challenge remains that there seems not to be any person very popular to take over from her.
And in terms of the relationship with Cambodia, is it a fraught one, a tense one? Because, I don't know, I suspect that there's also something there. There's a story there. Why would her calling the former leader uncle offend them so much, offend so many Thais so much?
It's over a territory, a tiny territory dispute, and that resulted in border disputes that resulted in the death of a Thai, of a Cambodian soldier, and therefore I think the Cambodians are also uprising in a way that they want to protect their territory and sovereignty. So nationalism is a very high level in both countries, and that is in itself is resulting in, I think what triggered it is the leaked telephone call between the two that is bringing in all other forces who are taking advantage, particularly the military, that is offended and using it as a way of pushing her out of power.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time. Always crisp and very clear with your analysis and insights. That's Professor David Munyai, the director of the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. By the way, if you are laughing at me for stumbling over that name, Paetong Tan Shinawatra, I can say it now. I'm awake now. Now it rolls off the tongue. Paetong Tan Shinawatra. Years ago, there was a suspect who appeared in court and was undergoing trial, and it became a joke in the Joburg newsroom of the SABC. It was Chumlong Lemtong Tai was his name. Imagine being a reporter and in the middle of everything you have to deal with. Please say it for me. Chumlong Lemtong Tai.
Chumlong? What?
Chumlong Lemtong Tai.
I haven't had my coffee yet, buddy.
It became a joke for us in the newsroom that, challenge. Can you say it?
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So there was no Chumlong Lemtong Thai with the junior box, but they did crush Australia. Tell me about that.
Oh, yeah. You know what, Thulas? We've got the name Sia.
Yes.
If your name is Sia and you play for the Springboks, just know you're already halfway to winning. So that's just some Zanzi rugby science at the moment. So, yep, it was the junior box. They sent a warning in their World Rugby Under-20 Championship, thrashing Australia 73-17 in their opening clash. The winger Sian Lozi bagged a first-half brace as South Africa ran in 11 tries in a sizzling display of pace and precision. The junior box raced to a 33-5 lead by half-time. Cheswell Euster, Herman Lueb and Hashim Peed also crossing the line. Now, cricket, the Proteas are dominating in Bulawayo, ending day 2 of the first test against Zimbabwe with a 216-run lead with 9 wickets in hand after piling on 418 for 9 declared. South Africa's bowlers took charge. Vian Mulder grabbed 4, debutant Cody Yusuf 3 for 42 and skipper Keshav Maharaj picked up 3 as well. Zimbabwe managed 251 and that was thanks to a century from Sean Williams. But with the bat again, the Proteas are already 49 for 1 and in full control heading into day 3. Soccer action, Paris Saint-Germain steamrolled Lionel Messi's Inter Miami 4-0 to reach the Club World Cup quarterfinals. Harry Kane scored twice as Bayern Munich booked their place in the quarterfinals following a 4-2 win over the Brazilian giants Flamengo. And golf news, Ulrich Potgieter, the South African, made an 18-foot birdie putt on the 5th playoff hole, outlasting Max Grayson to win the Rocket Classic for his first PGA Tour title. The 20-year-old is the youngest player on the tour and its biggest hitter. He became the 9th player to win for the first time this season. Here's Potgieter.
There was a switch that kind of went off when I lost the lead, and I kind of felt like, okay, I can kind of chase something. So I kind of had to pull myself out of the environment I was in before those first couple of holes and get in that chase mode where I can kind of play some different golf that I played the first 3 days. So when that went off, I birdied the par 5 on 7, birdied 8, had a really good look on 9, so I felt the momentum switch there.
We'll be back on the morning brief fairways at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the Judicial Conduct Tribunal probing sexual harassment allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge will continue this morning with evidence from gender expert Lisa Vetten. Police in Cape Town have asked the public to assist in finding 2 men who may be able to provide crucial information following the fatal shooting of 7 men at the Kanana informal settlement in Guguletu on Saturday morning. And the Gauteng Department of Infrastructure is in a court battle with some residents of Diepkloof in Soweto who have unlawfully occupied the Bachomane Primary School. The school closed down in the early 2000s due to low learner numbers, and the residents decided to turn it into a housing unit in 2018. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Getting busy now on Joburg's highways. A crash running into Galulis. I beg your pardon. Couple of lanes blocked off there. The traffic coming out of Germiston and Alberton via Cement Factory, via Heldnace up through Van Buren and into Galulis. Absolutely jam-packed. Some delays on the N1 through Bayers Nordia up to Malabongwe, and a crash blocking a couple of lanes N12 west at Xavier Ridgeway area. So if you're moving from Alberton across to Soweto, watch for some delays there. As I mentioned, it is school holidays, but traffic just starting to build fairly normally. Actually, for a Monday morning between the Brockfontein interchange and New Road. So busy conditions still as you come down through Midrand towards Joburg. Durban, a breakdown near the Cement Factory. So between the Higginson Highway and the M7, there is a slowing of traffic there. And Cape Town, the broken down vehicle N2 inbound that backed everything up at Boonga Avenue's being cleared. It has been replaced by a breakdown at Hospital Bend. So that's going to slow things up along the N2. And no traffic lights this morning coming out of Tableview, Blowberg Road and Kuberg Road Junction. A busy one as you head towards the refinery. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
For the first update of the week, and Dowling Lechela on standby. Good morning to you, Dowling. Let's start with news between Beijing and Washington. A trade deal signed, sealed, delivered.
Morning, Thulasizwe. You're absolutely right. And this, of course, comes after China's Ministry of Commerce and the White House confirmed that both nations have signed the agreement aiming to ease tensions between the two economies after a prolonged trade conflict. Now, the deal includes key terms such as China continuing to approve export permits for controlled items and the U.S. cancelling certain restrictive measures against China. This agreement follows initial talks in Geneva that led to postponing massive tariff hikes and later discussions in the UK that set a framework for negotiations. The impact of the trade war has been quite significant, with both countries scaling back tariff hikes imposed during the conflict. But some higher tariffs on fentanyl, aluminium, and steel remain in place. Economists cheering the move, saying the agreement is a positive step, but its long-term impact remains to be seen. U.S. officials said they expect to reach deals with other countries, including India. This, of course, comes as we near that July 9th deadline.
At the same time, you're telling us about China's manufacturing sector remaining in contractionary territory. There's two words you don't hear very often where China is concerned: contractionary territory.
Absolutely, Tulas. And this, of course, they've pointed to the impact we've seen from tariffs, as we saw a lot of front loading before the tariffs hit, and now we are seeing a slowdown taking place. China saying this is the third consecutive month the manufacturing sector is in contractionary territory, with the June PMI at 49.7 points from 49.5 in May. Although this figure meets analyst forecasts, as mentioned, it remains below the 50 mark that separates expansion from contraction. Now, the non-manufacturing PMI, which covers services and construction, edged up to 50.5 from 50.3 in May, indicating a continued expansion in those sectors. A weaker manufacturing sector is due to intense competition and weak demand, resulting in a price war and supply glut. Higher U.S. tariffs had an impact on China's exports, with shipments plunging 34.5% in May and 21% in April. Now, to counter these challenges, Chinese Premier Li Qiang has emphasized boosting domestic demand to make China a consumption powerhouse. And I'm sure that trade agreement that's been signed will also bode well for the sector.
Lastly, Dowling, how did we end the week last week, but also the first movers out of Asia? Please reflect on that and how we are likely to be looking this morning.
And kicking things off in the U.S. markets, ending last week strong, with the S&P 500 hitting another record high. This is the 4 straight sessions. It's been at record high levels for 4 straight sessions, up 0.52% in last week's close. This as the signing off of the U.S.-China trade truce boosted sentiment. That, however, not filtering through to the JSE, with lower gold and platinum prices weighing on the local bourse, resulting in a 3.7% decline in the Resource 10 complex, which then saw the all-share close 0.1% lower. Slight strength coming through from the rand today, but caution remains as a GNU jitters spook investors. It's sitting at 17.79 to the dollar this morning. Lastly, in Asia, markets are mostly in the green. This after President Trump indicated that the U.S. had signed that agreement with China.
Have you had your coffee this morning, Dowling?
Not yet.
Not yet. So you're likely going to fail this. We're doing tongue twisters this morning. I don't know if you heard earlier on. I stumbled over the name Paitangtan Shinawatra from out of Thailand. So it's fine. Okay. That was mine. Let me give you yours. Chumlong Lemtong Thai.
Chumlong Lemtong Thai.
Look at you. You don't need your coffee. All right, Ndauling, we'll talk again in the second hour. That's Ndauling Lechela there. She's watching business, economics, and the markets for you throughout the morning.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Someone who will probably ace the tongue twister is Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning to you. Before we get to the tongue twister, let's talk about this agreement between the DRC and Rwanda, brokered by the United States, signed in Washington. What details are emerging about it?
Refreshing morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Thulas, indeed, when you look at the peace deal that was signed on Friday, there are underlying factors that some of the scholars and analysts have looked into. And I think on the show we did touch on the issue of these minerals for security offer. But one thing that we don't look into, Thulas, is that you have another party in this conflict, the M23, which is also having separate talks mediated by Qatar. And in the meeting of Friday, it was only Rwanda, DRC, but also observers who were in that signing was the AU chairperson, it was the Togolese Foreign Affairs Minister, and the Qatarian Minister of State. Now, it is very important to us when you look at this peace deal to say how will it end the current conflict in the Eastern DRC? How will it hold also on the issues of governance, issues of integration? Because I think the key word that came out of that peace deal was the issues around governance, peace deal, humanitarian aid. But the main issue, like I said, Thulas, analysts are worried about is the question of understanding that the U.S. went on that deal basically for their interest on the mineral wealth of the Eastern DRC.
And then two names that we've not spoken about in quite some time, Sipho, Laurent Gbagbo as well as Guillaume Soro. They emerge again in the context of Cote d'Ivoire headed for the elections. Tell me what they've done in trying to petition the African Court on Human and People's Rights.
This is not good news for them because the Tanzanian-based court ruled that Laurent Gbagbo has not provided sufficient evidence to challenge his ban, and that he was not a victim, actually, of a bad treatment by the government of Ivory Coast. Remember that, as you said, Ivory Coast decides on the 25th of October. Now, both Soro and Gbagbo took the matter to the African Court on Human and People's Rights. Since 2022, they've been contesting this. In 2025 also, they went to the court to try to deal with their exclusion in the forthcoming elections. And others are saying, what now is it for Laurent Gbagbo now, Thulas? Once you have the Continental Court, the AU highest decision-making body throwing out this matter, Thulas, are they going to the UN? Because this was most of their, what we can say, the last step outside their national jurisdiction to look at the regional intervention, but they have failed.
And Sipho, we've heard of lifestyle audits in this country. I suppose this is comparable, is it not? What the vice president in Zimbabwe is doing, talking about people with unexplained wealth and ability to travel. Tell me what Constantino Chiwenga is saying about this.
The VP of Zimbabwe, Constantino Chiwenga, was talking to the Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce and raised this issue of this questionable, he says, a business as a phantom entrepreneurship whose money drop like manna from heaven. I mean, linking what we call Thulas, we are made in the state of plutocracy in Africa, where government rules government. I mean, money rules government. And here there is a confrontation between a businessman, Udakwashe, who's challenging the exiled former ZANU PM, as Ukwera Thulas Savo, that ties in on the issue of having benefited in the corruption in Zimbabwe. And that has pushed the VP to be saying that we need to do that life audit, that lifestyle audit Thulas, to look at how does business and politicians collude and also get into the public funds. And that's why, as you know, that Chiwenga wants to become the next sitting president. Hence, he wants to clean that mess of that relationship between business and politicians.
Lastly, Sipho, in your historical archives, take me to 30 June 1960.
Thulas, I could not leave this because it's almost 65 years of the liberation and the independence of the DRC from the Belgians on this day in 1960. But it is also an important day that the late Patrice Emery Lumumba addressed the parliament, how he said that this date is a very important date that must be engraved in the hearts of the Congolese, and their children and grandchildren, Thulas, and great-grandchildren must know of the glorious history of the struggle for freedom. We know, Thulas, what happened after this speech. That was actually Lumumba calling for his death warrant, because few months later, 7 months later, Lumumba was murdered in 1961, after giving this seminal speech in 1960 as part of the independence or the liberation of the DRC from the Belgians. DRC is still not out of the woods, Thulas. Is there anything to celebrate? If they've been to Washington, let's hope that the Washington peace deal will hold Thulas and there will be peace in the land of Patrice Emery Lumumba.
Wait. Don't go just yet. Don't go. You can't get away with it. Listen, I wanted to give you a free pass, but Zaikan and Dowling are just not happy that they get to be put on the spotlight and you don't. So it's out of my hands, Sipo. So I was saying Paitengtan Shinawatra. I stumbled over that name coming from Thailand, but there was another Thai who was notorious in this country some years ago, and I was telling the story of how it became a challenge in our newsroom to say Chumlong Lemtong Thai.
Chumlong Lemtong Thai. I would say I thought you would say Maxwell Namativanani or Sandela.
That's easier for you. Super, thank you. That's Super Mandula there with your Africa update for this morning. Chumlong Lemtong Thai.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals, Kaizer Chiefs greats and Bafana Bafana 2010 FIFA World Cup stars René Solonyane and Sipiwe Chabalala take on the food and beverage industry. The legendary duo own one of Soweto's most vibrant hangout spots and invite us to be the tastemakers of the inner workings of their establishment. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 5 July at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Northwest Provincial Legislature Portfolio Committee on Premier and Finance, chaired by Honorable Nathan Oliphant, will be conducting public hearings on the Northwest Division of Revenue Bill and Northwest Appropriation Bill on 3 July 2025 at Khopane Tribal Hall, Khopane, in Ngakamudiri Molema District, Matlosana Auditorium Hall in Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District, Ipelege Multipurpose Hall, Swizer in Dr. Ruth Somutsimumpati District, and Safer Scale Community Hall, Safer Scale in Bujanala District. All hearings start at 10.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's bring you this story, another perspective on it. The governing coalition, the National Governing Coalition, known as the Government of National Unity, appears to have weathered yet another storm, but not without some bruises. The Democratic Alliance ultimately deciding to stay in the national government setup, despite the sacking of its member Andrew Whitfield from the position of Deputy Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, and President Cyril Ramaphosa's rejection of the party's ultimatum for him to also fire errant ANC-aligned ministers. The DA is withdrawing not from the Government of National Unity, but from the National Dialogue process. Importantly, it has resolved to not support the budget votes of ANC ministers implicated in corruption and other malfeasance. We wanted to bring you this story and bring you this conversation. Elvis Preslin speaking earlier on to the DA Federal Council Chairperson Helen Zille. He began by asking her about the implications of the latest moves for the stability of the Government of National Unity.
Well, it'll simply take the ANC respecting the documents that it signed. We have a statement of intent, And the ANC has ignored it whenever it is inconvenient to the ANC to stick by the agreement. They have tried to work around the sections of the agreement they don't like. They tried to put out a clearinghouse mechanism that did not implement Clause 19 at all. They always get around Clause 18. Even the setting up of the national dialogue was a violation of the statement of intent that they signed before we voted the president into office last year. The section on decision-making in Section 18 and 19 says how decisions have to be taken very clearly. It spells it out. And the government just keeps ignoring it. Doesn't do a thing when it doesn't suit them.
The recent tensions, particularly around the sacking of the Deputy Minister Andrew Whitfield, have highlighted strains in the GNU. I've asked the question to our listeners whether or not they think that the centre is holding. Do you believe that the centre is holding? Because Herman Mashaba surely doesn't. And how does the DA intend to address public perceptions of instability within the coalition?
Well, we don't have to address anything because we stick by the rules and play by the rules, and the ANC doesn't. So the ANC has to address these things. We are used to coalitions. We've run some coalitions very, very well. And where we haven't run coalitions well, it's because of the fact that we've got far too many parties within coalitions because we don't have legislation, as they do in other countries, that regulates the size of coalitions. So it's a big problem to not have that, and we can't really run 9, 10-party coalitions. It gives too many small parties the right to cross the floor and bring down the government at any turn. So we've got that legislation before Parliament, but all it's going to take, it's a very simple solution to this problem, stick with the rules that we've agreed on and the documents that you've signed, and then there won't be any instability in the coalition.
You've given a stern warning to the African National Congress. What is your vision for a stable, effective GNU that really delivers tangible results for all South Africans?
Well, number one, it would be great if the DA was bigger, because then we would have some real hold on proper portfolios. At the start, the ANC completely broke up the good faith of the coalition because it bloated cabinet to get far too many ANC members in, way out of proportion to their support in the electorate. So that was the first thing. And secondly, it's very simple. Even though they have manipulated the rules up till now and ignored them when they felt like ignoring them, and acted unilaterally when they felt like acting unilaterally, they can still decide that it's up to them to stick by the rules. They're not governing alone. They did not get an overall majority. They do have a coalition partner, and they need to respect that coalition partner and work with us.
So that was the conversation earlier on between my colleague Elvis Preslin on First Take SA with Helen Zille, the Federal Council chairperson of the DA. I can add a bit more detail to it in conversation I had over the weekend with the DA's national spokesperson, Ville Oukamp. Among what they are revealing is that they will be forwarding a name to President Cyril Ramaphosa to consider for appointment to the position of Deputy Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. And also I wanted to just add that in relation to the DA saying that they will not support the budget votes of these ministers, so the likes of Minister Thembi Simelane, Nobuhle Nkabane, and a few others. In relation to that, I saw a statement from the ANC saying that the ANC in Parliament, that they will also reserve their rights in terms of how to vote with regard to certain budget votes. And I'm just wondering, where does that leave us then? Where does it leave us where it's a daggers drawn? The one side says, I won't support your minister's budgets. And the other one says, I also reserve my rights to vote in whatever way, whether the government of national unity.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. It's heavy coming in from the south side, making your way up through Joburg this morning. Very heavy N1 North, 14th Avenue, through Bayers, Nordia towards Malabongwe. The Mike 1 from Boysons to Parktown via Crown is heavy, and a crash on the N3 at Galulis, backlogging traffic out of Germiston and Alberton. The N3 North really slow. Interesting volumes coming down the N1 out of Pretoria to Joburg through Midrand. I think it might be a bit easier as we get into school holidays, but not today. It's back from Brockfontein all the way down to that new road exit, and looking about as heavy as it normally is, if not actually a touch heavier. Durban, all sorts of things happening on the N2 North. There's a breakdown before the M7, so coming up from Chatsworth, that's slow as you work your way past that, and then from the M7 through the Westwood Mall, you're queuing into the sort of roadworks which you do on a daily basis. Once you emerge from that queue, you're back into traffic pretty quickly into a crash at Queen Anne Drive. So if you're on the N2 coming in from the south coast, you want to get to the airport at this stage, there are 3 queues to work through. Also a crash on the R102. This is coming out of Verulam down through Phoenix. The crash is just after the Phoenix Highway as you sort of merge onto that M41. So that R102 down to Mount Edgecombe's heavy, and the top end of the Phoenix Highway to get in via Trade Centre looking quite slow as well. Cape Town, broken down vehicle, Hospital Bend inbound, pushing traffic back to Lunga, and no traffic lights. Bloberg Road, Kuberg Road, some extra delays coming out of Tableview side. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This week on BBC Primetime, watching TV could make you a winner. It's the BBC Primetime Watch and Win competition. Just tune into your BBC Primetime shows, answer a few simple questions on S3's TikTok account, and you could walk away with awesome prizes. From thrilling dramas to jaw-dropping reality shows, the more you watch, the more chances you have to win. Watch, answer, win. Only on BBC Primetime. Airs weeknights 9 to 11 p.m. on S3. Your couch just became the best seat in the game. We all have an enemy.
Not me.
Oh, please. Trust me, you do. Some are vocal about it. I mean, they don't shy away from it. Open hatred. Well, at least they're honest about it. Then you get our Satan. Oh, they will hate you in the shadows. Consult the Magoya of Baloi. Maybe an Nkabi for you here and there. Trash your name until it can't even be recycled. Tune into My Secret Enemy and get a front row seat to some of the most spine-chilling stories in the Hall of Betrayal. My Secret Enemy, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you. Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
It's coming up to 4 minutes to 7. Let's turn to the story. Rand Water has revealed the latest schedule of its ongoing extensive critical maintenance work on its systems. This next phase includes work to be done on key pumping systems such as Eikenhof, Palmit and Zwartkoppies, scheduled to begin early this morning. It's meant to have begun already and continue through Wednesday. This work will see significant reductions in water pumping capacity, down to about 50% for about 48 hours, affecting several parts of Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni and surrounding municipalities. Authorities have warned that full water supply restoration could take up to 7 days, with high-lying areas likely to be the last to recover. So let's speak to Rand Water's spokesperson, Makinosi Maruo. Good morning to you, Makinosi. Thank you for your time. Outline for us this bit of work. It's part of your longer-term ongoing maintenance work that started at the end of May, and you said to us it will continue until mid-July. But what is the immediate impact of the work that you'll be carrying out now?
Okay, great. Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners. Yes, you're correct. We started on the 29th. That was the first phase. So we decided to give it a space in between, like to phase it out so that the system can recover. Now we are moving to the second phase, where we are going to be working on the Zwartkoppies, which will impact the city of Ekurhuleni, the Eikenhof, and permit. So we are still going to be pumping at Eikenhof at permit. The only system that will not be pumping for 50 hours at Swartkopis, because we are going to be changing valves. So we will need to shut off the system completely.
And what are the implications of that system, the Swartkopis system shutting off completely?
Obviously, the reservoirs will run low for a couple of times or a couple of hours up until the system is empty. Then we start replacing the valves. That's where municipalities come in. City of Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, and other industries. Because remember, Swartkopis supplies Benoni, Annandale, Yeoville. So we have requested the municipalities, these 3 municipalities, actually 2, to come in. Should there be challenges with regards to water, there will be water tankers in the area.
So in terms of the 2 other systems, Permit and Eikenhof, you're talking about reduced capacity. But in terms of Swartkopis, you're talking about a shut-off completely of the system. Which areas are we talking about that are going to be affected, and in what way are they going to be affected in a differentiated manner that speaks to how you'll be dealing with these 3 systems?
All right. For Swartkopis, a number of areas will be affected. Remember, Swartkopis, as I indicated, it supplies part of Ekurhuleni. It supplies Benoni, it supplies Johannesburg. So those areas will be impacted. And when it comes to Eikenhof, I think you asked about Eikenhof. Eikenhof supplies a number of areas, including Northwest. So Rustenburg, Royal Bafokeng, and other mines will be impacted. But as we indicated, we'll still be pumping, but at a reduced level or load.
Let me ask you a cluster question as a parting shot, Makinos. Are the arrangements in place with the municipalities that are affected for them to arrange for water tankers where those are needed? But at the same time, please address whether, as residents of areas supplied by these systems, ultimately we will find that it is worth the pain of going through this kind of maintenance, in that later on when you are done and dusted, the system will be performing much better. So cluster question for you.
Okay, great. Now, let me start with the first question. Yes, we do have an arrangement with different municipalities. As part of the intergovernmental relations, we meet with the metros every morning. We also meet with the small municipalities in preparation for the maintenance. So we are comfortable that we have an agreement, and they will be on standby with the water tankers to ensure that the residents do have water. And then in terms of the maintenance, why we're carrying it out, and will there be a difference once we are done with this one? Yes, there will be a big difference. The reason why we are undertaking this maintenance, we want to increase the capacity, obviously, in terms of Station 5. We also want to improve the plant availability. So we want our plants to be reliable so that we don't have issues and challenges from time to time. So we want to be able to supply water through our networks. I mean, if you recall, we pump water, from Vereeniging, Suikerbos up until Rustenburg. We also go to Mpumalanga. So it's important for us to maintain the system to ensure that we are able to supply water, reliable water.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. That's Makinos Maruo, who is Rand Water spokesperson. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, Mbalula slams the DA for undermining the national dialogue, and police urge the public to assist in Kanana mass shooting. Good morning. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula has disputed accusations that the party is using the national dialogue to try and retain power. Mbalula was speaking on the sidelines of the OR Tambo Regional Conference in Umtata in the Eastern Cape yesterday. The DA has withdrawn from the dialogue in protest at the treatment it says it has received from President Cyril Ramaphosa. The DA says Ramaphosa fired a DA deputy minister but continues to protect corrupt ANC cabinet ministers. The DA says it's also considering a motion of no confidence against Ramaphosa. But Mbalula says the ANC won't tolerate the DA's threats.
There's no such a thing. National dialogue was proposed by civil society, which we supported. There's no such a thing as using national dialogue to capture the imagination of the people. It is a South African thing. It is led by government working with all other civil society organizations. Hence, we support. There's no ANC that is leading the national dialogue. It's a false, pronunciation that has been made by the DA, of which the reality, this dialogue is about the interest of the people of South Africa.
The Judicial Conduct Tribunal probing sexual harassment allegations against the Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge will continue this morning with evidence from gender expert Lisa Vetten. The previous leg of hearing saw the tribunal rule that Vetten should be allowed to testify before the landmark probe. Kenny Mapanga reports.
The probe is investigating a complaint by Judges Secretary Andiso Mengo, who alleges that she was sexually harassed in the form of in-person interactions and electronic communication between June 2021 and November 2022, allegedly by the Judge President. Vetten, who has worked in the area of violence against women since 1991, as a counselor, paralegal, trainer and researcher, is expected to give evidence that delves into the nuances surrounding sexual harassment in the workplace. Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Police in Cape Town have asked the public to assist in finding two men who may be able to provide crucial information following the fatal shooting of 7 men at the Kanana informal settlement in Gugulethu on Saturday morning. Police say the victims, aged between 26 and 30, were socializing in the kitchen when they were attacked. The Western Cape Police Commissioner, Tembisile Patekile, says the shooting happened just 200 meters away from an earlier shooting where a man was killed. He says the 2 men might shed light on the murders.
We are looking for people that could assist us in our investigation. Fire, the one that's known as Fire, and Lunga Madolo and Loiso Martinez. Those were in the 2 scenes. We have the information that 2 men came to the scene, the first scene, and also in the scene is about same 2 men and same description. Now we believe that these 2 will assist us in our investigation.
The Gauteng Department of Education says the unlawfully occupied Pachomane Primary School in Diepkloof in Soweto is on the list of schools they want to reclaim and revamp. The department is in need of schools as the numbers of learners continue to increase. The school closed down decades ago due to a low number of learners. In 2018, Diepkloof residents took over the school and turned it into what they call a housing estate. Provincial Education Department spokesperson Steve Mabona says bringing the school back into the system will help curb the current overcrowding in other schools.
Yes, indeed. We are pressured in Gauteng. We cannot afford to have a school that is utilized for something else, only to find that it was actually zoned for a school. So we just need to go back. Unlike before, when that school was repurposed because we did not have the numbers.
And finally, Iran has insisted on its right to continue enriching uranium just over a week after the U.S. joined Israel in bombing its main nuclear sites. Iran's deputy foreign minister says the level of such enrichment could be discussed. The BBC's Luz Dessett has the details.
Majid Takhravanchi said Iran was receiving messages through mediators that the U.S. wanted to return to negotiations. But he emphasized there was no date or agreed format for talks, even though President Trump had said they could happen as early as this week. The minister said indirect messages were now going back and forth. But he said the previous talks had been halted by Israel's military strikes, and he insisted Iran needed a guarantee that would not happen again. He also rejected U.S. demands that Iran had to stop all uranium enrichment.
Recapping the top story, ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula has disputed accusations that the party is using the national dialogue to try and retain power. Mbalula was speaking on the sidelines of the OR Tambo Regional Conference in Umtata in the Eastern Cape yesterday. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Looking for some feel-good news? Jermaine, a 43-year-old man, feels like a winner because he switched to Outsurance and now saves a mind-blowing 360 Rand a month on the insurance for his 2021 Mazda 3 1.5 Dynamic. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. You always get something out. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby, the baby box, lighting up the World Under-20 Championship, smashing Australia 73-17. And in cricket, the Proteas have a 216-run lead after day 2 in Bulawayo. Let's find out more just before 7:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Pretty heavy on Joburg's highway networks. Delays on the N1 from 14th Avenue as you make your way up through Bayers Nordia towards Malabongwe Drive. That's a construction zone these days. The N3 North is heavy out of Alberton and Germiston. There's been a crash at Galulis. That's why everyone queuing up on that run past Cement Factory and through Van Buren Road. The Mike 1 from Boyson through to Parktown fairly heavy. The N12 coming out of Benoni through Boksburg. That's a bit of a disaster as well. Queues right the way through to Rondebolt Road. The backlog there from almost back as far as Snake Road, and fairly heavy, big volumes coming down the N1 from Brockfontein towards the New Road this morning. Durban, a crash on the R102 at the M41, so coming from Phoenix or from Verulam, Ottawa down through that Mount Edgecombe area, very slow. The Phoenix Highway out to Trade Centre to join that traffic is under pressure, and the N2 in Durban, all sorts of things happening there, a breakdown before you get to the M7, so that's a queue from Chatsworth, and then queues into the roadworks towards Westwood Mall, then a crash at Queen Nundy Drive. That's your third queue as you line up from Umgeni Road side up towards that particular scene. Cape Town, N1 inbound, Plattercliff to Sable Road's heavy. The breakdown at Hospital Bend's cleared, but the M2 inbound from Lunga is busy and no traffic lights. Bloberg Road at Kuberg Road backing you up out of Tableview. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 10 minutes after 7 on this Monday. It is great to be in your company. We are into the second hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Feel free to be a part of this conversation. Weigh in on any of the stories that we are raising throughout the 3 hours, but also any other matters that may be exercising your mind. Among what we will cover in this hour, we'll talk a bit about the intention by Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts, SCOPA, to launch a full-on parliamentary inquiry into the goings-on at the Road Accident Fund. With the latest news coming out from there, the reporting of the Sunday Times yesterday about a 10 million rand security detail for the suspended RAF CEO Collins Letswalo, which we're told includes a multi-million rand high-end BMW SUV and 3 VW Golf 8 vehicles. So that's just the latest that has come out. But you will know that there are other allegations that have come out that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts believe they warrant a full-on investigation. So in the next few minutes, I'm in conversation with SCOPA Chair Songezo Zibi. We'll also talk about the situation around crime intelligence, just the jarring nature of seeing police officers lining up in the dock where they ordinarily should be putting suspects, but you then see them standing in the dock. And it's just not just lower-ranking police officers, no, it's the top brass within crime intelligence. We saw that scene playing itself out on Friday. It was the Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo, who is the head of crime intelligence, and there was also even the chief financial officer of the unit. That is the financial officer Philani Lushaba was also part of those people that appeared there. So we'll weigh in on that, and we'll speak to Ian Cameron, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police. And then a bit later on in the hour, we will revisit that story around Ithala Bank. Remember the ANC coming out last week saying that there's been a deal that has been reached with National Treasury, with the Minister of Finance in particular, that is meant to save Ithala Bank from liquidation. Well, there's some developments. The MEC Musa Zondi in KZN says, hang on, not so fast. Don't make these announcements until there's something that has been formalized. So we'll touch on that story at about 10 to 8. And as I said, you are a part of this conversation. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Please send me WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. So let's get the second hour of the morning brief underway.
Gordon Ramsay is back, and your favorite kitchen disasters are still somehow in business. New season, same confused chefs, terrifying walk-ins, and enough grease to fry your Wi-Fi. Watch as Gordon tries to fix the unfixable with nothing but sheer rage, British sarcasm, and an iron stomach. Kitchen Nightmares Season 8, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on S3. Come for the food, stay for the emotional damage.
A stage awaits, not for applause, but for possibility. For over 40 years, Standard Bank has championed the arts, and at the National Arts Festival, we don't just watch talent rise, we help grow it. Through our Standard Bank Young Artist Winners, raw voices find power, unseen stories take the spotlight, and what begins as a dream grows into a legacy. Join us in Makanda for the festival. Standard Bank, proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Let's start our coverage in this hour with this story. The suspended Road Accident Fund RAF CEO Collins Letswalo has lost his urgent court bid to return to office, with the Gauteng division of the High Court in Pretoria branding his application quote-unquote frivolous and vexatious. While the ruling solidifies the RAF board's authority, it also highlights deeper unresolved problems within the fund, from allegations of manipulated financial reporting to an unsustainable litigation policy and strategy, and of course, critical vacancies that have remained unfilled for prolonged periods of time. To add to the controversies, the Sunday Times reporting yesterday that Letswalo may be one of the most protected CEOs of state-owned entities, with his security detail reportedly consisting of 9 bodyguards, an armored luxury SUV, and 3 high-performance VW Golf 8 vehicles, all to the tune of some 10 million rand. So let's pick up the conversation with Songezo Zibi, who is chairperson of Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Songezo, good morning and thank you for your time. Let me start with the latest revelations around the security detail that we were told, according to the reporting of Thandukolo Jika, is irregular and basically doesn't comply with policies. Were you surprised by those revelations?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Yes, I was surprised because the last I heard about the protection of the chief executive officer, which is on its own not a big deal, was for some institutions was that it amounted to about 480,000. The security allowance that was contained in the court papers in the matter of the suspension of the CEO. So an amount of 10 million rand and what appears to be an unusually high number of bodyguards, including those who look after his spouse and children, is a surprise and deeply concerning.
But how does it fit in with what you want to probe in the form of a full-on parliamentary inquiry?
The inquiry will probe matters like this in the event that we get evidence. And at the time that the committee met, I must say we were not aware of it. At least I was not aware of it at all. But we are going to also look into financial management and compliance. That is compliance with the Public Finance Management Act and related financial regulations, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, and so on. So in this case, we would look at whether there indeed was a threat assessment done, what that threat assessment said, and whether the expenditure is in line with that threat assessment, but also why the reported expenditure exceeds what the chairperson of the RAF board put in her papers a couple of weeks ago.
What are you hoping this full-on inquiry will achieve that you can't achieve with regular, accountability reporting of the RAF to your committee? In a way, this inquiry, the way I see it at least, it seems to remind me of the inquiry that was done into ESCOM a couple of years ago. Why go that route of a full-on inquiry when the RAF reports to you regularly?
The biggest problem has been the fact that the RAF either does not disclose information to the family or to the committee, or partially discloses that information, which is a problem. Even in cases where they've disclosed it, there are instances where the information is not presented in its proper context and therefore it is misleading. The only way we can get accurate information, because Parliament cannot fire a public servant in this way, like the chief executive, only the executive can, is to subpoena that information and to establish what is really going on, and then to make the subsequent recommendations. That is the first thing. The second thing is to make recommendations to Parliament, the executive, and to other committees of Parliament. That will help to ensure that the RAF is able to efficiently fulfill its mandate, use public funds according to the way that it's supposed to, and so on. And the third point is accountability, where money has been stolen in terms of civil recoveries, and also to send some of that information to the SIU, to the Hawks, as well as where necessary, subsequently to the National Prosecuting Authority, so that people can be prosecuted.
How would you best sum up what ails the RAF, Songezo? Because, in the public commentary that you see out there, part of it includes an assertion that you're dealing here with a CEO who's been very effective in curbing the fleecing of the RAF by unscrupulous lawyers. And you even hear some of it go as far as to say that actually he's being targeted simply because he touched the untouchables. We've heard him argue that he has actually saved the RAF money. Some 50 billion rand, I believe, is the figure that he has been throwing around. So what ails this institution?
Look, for me, my observation is that it's utter lawlessness. And I'll give listeners just 3 examples without explaining too much. The first one is that the Road Accident Fund has been for years now defying the National Treasury and defying the Auditor General by applying its own accounting standard without the authority of a court. If any other institution were to do that, for example, if ESCOM were to ignore NERSA's tariff determination and implement it anyway, South Africans would hit the streets. We cannot accept a situation where a public institution does that sort of thing. That is one example. The second example is that the Road Accident Fund routinely ignores court orders, whether they pertain to claimants or their own labor relations matters. One of the matters has come to our attention is an employee who went all the way to the case went all the way to the Labor Appeals Court. They won at each stage. The Road Accident Fund simply refuses to let her to come to work just because they can. And that employee must now go back, get lawyers to have an enforcement order against the Road Accident Fund. That's the second example. The last example is we asked the Road Accident Fund where it is keeping this money that is allegedly invested. They refuse to tell Parliament. Can you imagine, Thulasizwe, if the PIC were to rock up in Parliament, and when Parliament wants to know where public monies are invested, the PIC would say, sorry, we cannot tell you that. The Road Accident Fund has done that. I am not certain why claims of having cleaned up an institution or saved money means an institution must be exempt from accountability and the law. That will destroy this country if we allow situations like that.
Talk to the situation around default judgments, because there's another element there that has been coming to the fore in the reporting that the RAF has done before your committee, but also before the Portfolio Committee on Transport, that the default judgments are, I suppose, at alarmingly high rates.
The Road Accident Fund, which is one of the issues we are looking into, has no chief claims officer, and it has not had one for nearly 3 years. The last time they advertised the role was 2.5 years ago, by the board's own admission. The Road Accident Fund processes claims. That's what it does. The second thing is that it has no head of legal. The person who oversees the legal department does not have a law degree. Default judgments occur when the fund fails to defend matters in court, as they routinely don't. And by the way, in a space of 2 years, they also lost about 28 senior lawyers, internal, their own employees, 28, by their own admission. So what happens is that in court, somebody who submitted a claim, let's say for 5 million rand, if the Road Accident Fund had been there to argue it, that person could get paid 800,000 rand. Because the Road Accident Fund is not there, the court is forced to accept the argument that it is 5 million, which means taxpayers are 4.2 million rand out of pocket. We cannot tolerate that, clearly. We have to look into it because it's waste of government, of taxpayers' money.
All right. Songezo, let's leave it there. That's Songezo Zibi, who is chairperson of Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bakkie to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
25 minutes after 7, the embattled Crime Intelligence Division of the South African Police Service has been plunged into further crisis with the arrest of its head, Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo. Once tasked with rehabilitating the scandal-plagued unit, Khumalo now joins a growing list of top officials entangled in corruption and misconduct allegations, drawing parallels to the downfall of former Crime Intelligence Chief Richard Mdluli. Let's speak to Ian Cameron, who is chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. It was a jarring image, just seeing 7 police officers, many of them attached to crime intelligence, standing in the dock. What does this arrest of the crime intelligence chief, the chief financial officer, what does it tell us? What do we understand to be behind it all?
Sure. So thank you very much. Firstly, I think it really is a very serious indictment on the integrity testing of the South African Police Service. And this isn't me finding someone guilty before being tried. It's a matter of it should never have gone this far. If the relevant checks and balances are in place, people should be beyond reproach to the point where you shouldn't even have nearly enough reason to believe, and this is in terms of IDAC specifically, that someone may have or may not have been involved in something like this. It just shouldn't be up for discussion. So it really is a bad indictment. I think it also speaks to the skills audit that the Portfolio Committee managed to make a resolution of Parliament in 2024, where we say a skills audit must form a very serious part of the senior management of the South African Police Service. And this would obviously include things like lifestyle audits and so on and so forth. I think what worries me so much about it is that we've had so many discussions with the South African Police Service. And if you look at the appointment, for example, of the 29-year-old, now 30-year-old brigadier, there's just no way that specific person could have been beyond reproach for such a senior position. Her father was in the Hawks, and he had been arrested not too long ago for allegedly interfering in a political murder case in Limpopo. So it really reeks of a whole lot of interconnected misconduct.
What do we understand about the allegations? And I know that they'll be ventilated in court, but I mean, it's a story that has, much public interest in it, but it's hard to follow because on the one hand, it seems to be about irregular appointments within crime intelligence, which one of them you just alluded to. But at the same time, this issue around what colloquially we call the slush fund again comes up.
Yeah, I think the slush fund is just doomed. It seems that every time it comes up, it links to something like this. So firstly, it is the alleged misuse of the SAP slush fund. We all know that there's already discussions about how these investigations were linked to the irregular procurement of property. I know that this was something that was discussed in the Joint Intelligence Committee. Unfortunately, our committee, as the police committee, is not mandated to speak on things specifically linked to the Secret Service Fund, but I'm sure that will also somehow be linked to this. That's the procurement alleged fraud side of it. Then we also look at how it seems that there may have been some kind of personal enrichment or unauthorized purchases or lavish purchases of some kind. And then other parts was or included irregular appointments. We know of the younger brigadier. We already spoke about that, and many, many more. And in your introduction, you mentioned Richard Mdluli. Now, it's very interesting because, much of Richard Mdluli's family still works in crime intelligence. I not too long ago questioned the police minister in Parliament about it, and it is that I've got it on very good authority that two of Richard Mdluli's sons still work in crime intelligence. One of his wives, I don't know if it's his ex-wife or his current wife, still working crime intelligence. So how is it possible that so many years after Mdluli's so-called reign of terror, we are still in this space? There are other things regarding corruption, bribery, defeating the ends of justice, abuse of power. We know the defeating the ends of justice part of General Mashaba, but that, broadly speaking, summarizes parts of what is being investigated.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time. That's Ian Cameron. He's chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police. Yeah, so lots going on there within crime intelligence. And of course, we do need to allow the due processes to play themselves out. But certainly the levels of concern, right, that this was meant to be an organization in a turnaround phase. It is a crucial organization in terms of our overall crime fighting architecture. So to see any disturbances within that unit just makes for disturbing reading. I tell you what, let's just switch things around a little bit because we needed to allow for that conversation to play out properly. We'll come to Zai in a moment, but let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Pietermaritzburg High Court in KwaZulu-Natal is today set to sentence one of the individuals implicated in the July 2017 murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Magaka. ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula has disputed accusations that the party is using the national dialogue to try and retain power. The DA has withdrawn from the dialogue in protest at the treatment it says it has received from President Cyril Ramaphosa. And the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel's 12-day conflict with Iran has improved the chances of freeing hostages still being held in Gaza. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Stays heavy on Joburg's N1 this morning, going northbound. It's a crash now before Malabongwe Drive. Traffic all the way back through to Gordon Road. So if you're leaving Soweto on your way up through Randburg, very heavy backlogs. The N3 is also run under pressure this morning. Crash at Galuli's, causing a delay right back to the Reading interchange on the N12, coming out of Alberton. The N3 back towards sort of Rand Airport territory. Crash going across to Soweto on the N12, the southern bypass. If you're going from Alberton towards Soweto, that crash at Xavier Street, pushing a queue back towards Clip River Drive. And there's some pressure out of Benoni this morning through Boksburg, the N12, just under real sluggish conditions from Snake Road through to about Rondebolt Road. N1 from Brockfontein down to New Road, fully loaded. And a breakdown on the M1 South near Linwood in Pretoria, causing some delays as well. Durban, the N2 North is heavy. The static traffic literally from the M7 Bluff exit all the way through the roadworks and up to a crash scene by Queen Nundy Drive. Cliffdale looks all right. Ashburton, Pietermaritzburg, fine as well on that section of the N3. Going into Cape Town's Mitchell's Plain, a collision in amongst all those roadworks. It's on the M7 at Samora Michelle, southbound, quite heavily backed up through there. And lights are out on Tableview's Bloberg Road, Kuberg Road junction out towards the refinery. So that's heavily backed up. And you might find some traffic light problems as well on Marine Drive at Bay Beach Avenue as you come out of Tableview towards Sunset Beach. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you, Zai. So the under-20 Springboks, that's an annihilation. Eh? That's one of the really high scores that I've seen in recent years.
I'm telling you, this is how it's done. And of course, you've got the two Sias, this weekend. They really dominated. You've got the junior Sia, that's Sia and Lozi bagging a brace, and together with scrum half Hashim Pede notching 2. That's how the Baby Box lit up the World Under-20 Championships in Italy, smashing Australia 73-17 with 11 tries, while you've also had the other legendary Sia, that's Kolisi, commanding the senior box. I mean, they had a fantastic win. They thumped the Barbarians 54-7 in Cape Town, in case you missed that. Now, the Proteas in cricket, they are in firm control of the first test. They have a 216-run advantage with 9 wickets remaining after declaring 418 for 9. The Proteas dismantled Zimbabwe for 251. They closed the day on 49 for 1 in the second innings. Now, South African Football Association President Danny Jordan has continued to claim that he is a victim of a sustained media campaign after a motion to suspend him failed to materialize at the SAFA Congress in Sandton, Johannesburg.
What the members recognize that there are 3 publications in the country out of more than 300 which consistently over the last year has beat the same drum and still went to beat it this morning. Nothing happened here. We had a successful Congress. We had dealt with all the reports, we had debates, and SAFA is intact. But if you read those 3 newspapers, you will see a different picture is generated. And we must just ask why? Why?
On to golf, Ulrich Potgieter made an 18-foot birdie putt on the 5th playoff, outlasting Max Grayson to win the Rocket Classic for his first PGA Tour title.
There was a switch that kind of went off when I lost the lead, and I kind of felt like, okay, I can kind of chase something. So I kind of had to pull myself out of the environment I was in before those first couple of holes and get in that chase mode where I can kind of play some different golf that I played the first 3 days. So when that went off, I birdied the par 5 on 7, birdied 8, had a really good look on 9, so I felt the momentum switch there.
And finally, motorsport, Lando Norris held off a race-long challenge from his McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri to win the Austrian Grand Prix and lift his Formula One title hopes.
And I had to keep using my battery to try and get him out of DRS. And every time I tried to get my battery back up, he got it closer and he had a go at me. So I was just in a very vulnerable position for the first 20 laps. We had some good moments, some close moments, that's for sure. But exciting ones, ones where we're very much on the edge and we're pushing. It's never going to be perfect. It's very difficult to ever be perfect, but we had good battles today. It was fair, it was clean.
We'll be back in the fast lane. More sport, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. So it turns out the United Kingdom also has a PIC, do they? It's called the Pension Insurance Corporation. Tell me about them and Reinert Mills selling their stake in the PIC of the UK.
That's right, Silas. Now, the investment company chaired by Johan Rupert has confirmed it is in talks to sell its 49.5% stake in the UK-based insurer Pension Insurance Corporation. And the insurer said it had been approached about disposing of its interest, but there is no certainty the deal will go through or what the terms would be. According to reports, Thora, a European savings and retirement services group backed by Apollo Global Management, is in advanced negotiations to acquire PIC in a deal worth or valued between $6.75 billion and $6.86 billion. PIC is currently owned by a consortium of shareholders led by private equity firm CVC Capital Partners. The potential sale of Reinert's stake in PIC could have major implications for the company's investments. As a major player in the financial sector, Reinert's decisions are closely watched by industry experts and investors. If the deal proceeds, it would mark a substantial transaction for Reynert following a move earlier this year when it dumped its 8% stake in British American Tobacco.
And tell me, Dowling, about what is bitumen, or is it bitumen? How do you pronounce it? What is that?
It's bitumen.
Bitumen. What is it?
It's a substance that's derived from petroleum, and it's mainly used in the construction sector. And so in Robex's case, they use it in their road projects, some of their building projects, etc., etc. And it seems like there is a shortage of it in South Africa, so they're looking at the export market. The group has implemented measures to ensure the quality of bitumen procured from offshore sources due to South Africa's dwindling refining capacity and domestic shortage. The company has put in place a 3-stage quality assurance process with strict protocols to guarantee the quality of imported bitumen, with its own storage facilities and regular imports into Cape Town and Durban ports. Robex aims to maintain a stable supply of bitumen. Now, the company has been selective in bidding for government tenders due to the size of recent awards and potential overtrading consequences. Despite this, Robex has secured projects in the current financial year, including a 3.2 billion rand Sunrail project, contracts with 1 billion rand from the Western Cape Provincial Government and 1.4 billion rand from the KZN Transport Department. The company is also refurbishing the Parliament building in a 2.3 billion project. So yeah, that order book is looking very strong.
Bitumen. You've taught me something this morning once again. Dowling, because I haven't reported on these matters in quite a while, and you don't have to answer this now, you could check on it and come back to me. Is Kosatu's investment house, Kopano Kimatla, is it still a shareholder in Robex? Do you know? You'll have to check on it, yeah? Yeah, because that was one of the fascinating things that I knew when I was still pounding the pavements as a reporter. Lastly, Dowling, how are we looking on the markets?
So Asian markets showing some strength today, boosted by trade deal talks. With that, the Japanese Nikkei is leading the gains up close to 8%. In Wall Street, futures are in the green, fueled by positive sentiment. Traders on that front will also be eyeing labor data, which is due later this week. And then coming back home, stocks mixed, with the all-share closing Friday session 0.1% lower. In currency markets, the rand steadily making gains this morning. It's sitting at 17.76 to the dollar.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. And thank you for accepting that brief and commission from me for a bit of homework. Dowling Lechala will be back just after 8:30 with the last update of the morning.
A stage awaits. Not for applause, but for possibility. For over 40 years, Standard Bank has championed the arts. And at the National Arts Festival, we don't just watch talent rise, we help grow it. Through our Standard Bank Young Artist Winners, raw voices find power, unseen stories take the spotlight, and what begins as a dream grows into a legacy. Join us. in Makanda for the festival. Standard Bank, proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
The citizens and the believers are in a high-level clash of emotions. Drama meets tension. The fight for 3 points is real. This is the PSL Promotional Playoffs. Catch the thrilling encounter between Cape Town City and Castrick Stars this Monday, 30 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
So a message coming through from Do Mtata, who says, basically this is a reflection of the dire situation in our crime intelligence sector, where the whole head will be investigated and arrested. South Africa really needs a huge transition politically, religiously, spiritually, academically, holistically. There's too much crime and corruption in this country, and you can't even trust the one heading the crime intelligence unit. Who will you trust? Asks Ncedo in Mtata there in a message sent through a bit earlier on. I do want to play one or two voice notes that are reflecting on the conversations we've had this morning. Let me start with one much earlier on. It is about the water situation in Hammanskraal, which we continue coming back to every now and then, every now and again, as the works are ongoing to try and secure clean water for the areas of Hammanskraal.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good morning to the SAFM listeners. It's only fair to give credit where it's due. The water treatment project in Hammanskraal, phase 1, it has been handed over, and they are now moving to phase 2, which is a good sign. You will recall that in 2023, it was alleged that about 40 people lost their lives due to cholera-related diseases. So I give applaud to all those who are involved. Sure. Let's continue to do the good work. Sewanele, Pretoria.
Sewanele, thank you for that. We did touch on it recently. Did we speak to Mayor Nasipi Moya? We did speak to her at some point, but I also think we spoke to the Department of Water and Sanitation. No, it's good to hear that there's actual progress that you are seeing and observing, because, you know, we are a bit more removed from the situation than you are, and you would be able to observe the difference, that you can demarcate and say, this area didn't have water, now it does. Yes, other areas are yet to be connected, but, you know, progress is being registered. So that's good to hear. Hopefully they are able to stick to the deadlines that they've set for themselves for the other phases of that project. Earlier on, Melissa Buta told you about the dispute around the issues. Let me not call it dispute. Let me not exaggerate. The issues, at least, around the payment of allowances for those soldiers who are returning from the Eastern DRC. Let's hear what this person has to say. I suppose that this voice note is about that.
Morning, Thulasizwe. Yes, it's anonymous in Cape Town. Yeah, I just want to talk about the issue of the DRC. Yeah, Sipho Mantula, he just put it perfect. Yeah, M23, it means Rwanda. So now if we sign a peace deal with Rwanda, that means M23 is going to go back. So the Qatar dialogue is not going to take us far. It's not going to take us far. I thank you.
I completely guessed wrong. This has nothing to do with the returning soldiers, but the peace deal that has been reached between Rwanda and the DRC, the peace deal that was brokered by the United States. And this person talking about the M23 element and saying that it's backed by Rwanda. And therefore, if you're talking to Rwanda, you are talking to the M23. Someone else wants to comment on Helen Ziller and that whole situation around the government of national unity.
Good morning to you. This is V from Mohali City in Krugersdorp. Thulasizwe, can you please get us as South Africans a copy of that statement of intent, so that we can have an access to it, so that we can know what was agreed upon there.
Yeah.
Because I believe it's in the best interest of the country to know the contents of that statement of intent. Because I can hear the Helen Ziller is talking about Section 19, Section 17. We don't know what does it entails. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. The statement of intent is a public document. It's already out there. You can see it on the websites. I'll look it up and then I'll give you a reference. I undertake to do that before I go, to just open it up. I don't want to do it now because, I'm a typical man, okay? I can't multitask. I can't be opening a website for the statement of intent and still hold my thoughts together and speak coherently. So I do undertake that just before I say goodbye, I will come back with where to find the statement of intent. It outlines what the parties signed up to. But importantly, for you and I, how does it align with the tenets of our constitution, our own expectations around governance and, around how government should be conducted, right? That's an agreement between political parties, but you and I should always remain vigilant to ensure that whatever they agreed to aligns with what we expect in the conduct of public affairs. Kirk, I will come to you in a moment, but I do want to play this voice note that has to do with the matter that you want to raise, the Government of National Unity.
A very good morning to us. It's Johnson in Bombela. Look, the GNU agreement between the ANC and the DA, it has now become a gun of some sort. It is now pointing at the ANC. The gun is pointing at the ANC. It has now become a GUN instead of a GNU. Thank you, Thulas.
I did not see that one coming, Johnson. It's not a GNU, it's a GUN. It's a gun. Good morning to you, Kirk, in Cape Town. Do you also agree that it's not a GNU, it's a GUN?
That's the best one for today, so far. That's a good one. But what concerns me is obviously this decision by President Ramaphosa to fire the deputy minister. I think his timing is so poor, with the spotlight on his ministers and their shenanigans within the GNU. For him to make a move like this is quite unlike him. So I don't know who is pressuring him, what the outside, if there's any, third force. Third force, we have that wonderful saying that I think the third force. If there's a third force, if there's something prompting this move, but it doesn't make any sense to me. The detail, the reasons that they're given for the deputy minister being fired also don't make sense. In that the severity of the charges of the ANC ministers are so much more serious. Yet this is being done. It doesn't make any sense to me.
So is it your sense then, Kirk, that it would have worked better if he had instituted a wholesale cabinet reshuffle or executive reshuffle?
It was the perfect opportunity to do so, because then he could have disguised it as it disguised the intention and made wholesale changes, cut the cabinet, and it would have been made a lot more sense. But this move is beyond me.
Yeah, Kirk, thank you for that. That's Kirk in Cape Town. And I do wonder if we could have someone that could come through and just talk to us about why this principle around members of the executive traveling abroad without the express permission of the president. Why is that so egregious in terms of how it is deemed by presidents, right? President Ramaphosa cited the precedent of the late Winnie Madikizela Mandela and her removal from the Mandela cabinet on that basis. There were other issues that were cited. I saw the letter, but this was one of the elements that you traveled without the express permission. Nozizwe Madlala Routledge being removed from the cabinet by former President Thabo Mbeki, again on the same basis. So it just makes me wonder, why is this such an egregious offense, such that presidents in this country don't brook it at all and will move swiftly as soon as someone travels abroad? My own imagination tells me that, it becomes a diplomatic issue when a minister is traveling and you need to trigger all sorts of protocols if something were to happen while you're out there. But that's just my layperson imagination of it. I would want to hear it authoritatively from someone with experience. Could we get maybe Dr. Lubisi, former DG, or someone like that, Frank Chikane, or someone to just clarify for us, just short and sharp, to explain why this is so egregious.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy on Joburg's N1 this morning. The Western Bypass got a crash going north just before Malabongwe Drive, and that's followed up by a collision just by Winnie Mandela. So you put it all together, it's a joined-up queue from 14th Avenue this morning right round to the four-ways off-ramp. N3 staying heavy, an earlier crash at Galuli's Interchange. All lanes are open there, but it's still an active scene. So coming up from Ilan's Interchange, N12 actually from around about 4 Trekker Road in through Ilan's and then up past Cement Factory, Van Buren on your way to Galuli's, all very slow. A lot of traffic on the N12 this morning as well from Benoni through Rondebolt Road. It's been busy all morning. And if you're on your way up towards Pretoria, a surprising little hold up on the N1 between Allendale and New Road. The crash on Durban's N2 north at Queen Nundy Drive. That scene has been cleared, but it's released all that traffic to drive into a breakdown before Gateway and amongst the roadworks. So the N2 towards the airport stays heavy. Coming out of the airport towards Durban, looks like a breakdown around Subaya. So that's queuing traffic into that particular exit, also through the roadworks. Cape Town, the N1 inbound from Plattekloof Hill to Marine Drive is quite slow. The M5 is busy for this time of year, queuing up from Rondebosch all the way through to the N1 at the Kubo Interchange. And talking of school holidays, you'll notice it if you're on the M3 this morning. Clear conditions to Kai up through Constantia, Weinberg Hill passing UCT. The M3 looking good all the way through to Hospital Ben. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Planet Earth, third planet from the sun. A cool place within the solar system where you can pause and take a deep breath without your lungs exploding. Home to an amazing array of wildlife and amazing landscapes that will leave you breathless either through wonder or fear. For humans, it's a place they call home, the only one that they have now. Team Surai follows a dedicated group of individuals dedicated to protecting the planet. Their mission: to encourage viewers to take concrete steps to protect the Earth. Catch Team Surai Thursdays at 6 p.m. S3, open up.
The Northwest Provincial Legislature Portfolio Committee on Premier and Finance, chaired by Honorable Nathan Oliphant, will be conducting public hearings on the Northwest Division of Revenue Bill and Northwest Appropriation Bill on 3 July 2025 at Khopane Tribal Hall, Khopane, in Ngakamudiri Molema District, Matlosana Auditorium Hall in Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District, Ipelege Multipurpose Hall, Schweizer-Reneke in Dr. Ruth Skhomutsi District, and Safer Scale Community Hall, Safer Scale in Bujanala District. All hearings start at 10.
EFC is live this Thursday, after months of talk.
And you got nothing, bro. Beat someone relevant, then come show me what you got.
The middleweight division's biggest rivalry comes to a dramatic conclusion.
Massive drama here at the main event of EFC. Never seen anything like it. This crowd.
It's Luke Michael versus Shadrach and Sua for the middleweight title, EFC 125. Live from the World Sports Betting Arena, this Thursday, July 3rd. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel, on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's coming up to 5 minutes to 8. You remember we had this conversation a few days ago about Ithala Bank and the announcement by the ANC that a deal had been struck with the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, which would save Ithala from liquidation. And I did say that I would want to hear more being said either by National Treasury or the Prudential Authority of the South African Reserve Bank. Well, the KwaZulu-Natal Economic Development and Tourism MEC, Reverend Musa Zondi, has publicly challenged the ANC's claim of securing a financial lifeline for embattled Ithala Bank. Zondi accuses the party of misleading depositors for political gain, saying no formal decision has been communicated by either the finance minister or the Prudential Authority to halt the bank's liquidation or release customer funds. So let's speak to Reverend Musa Zondi then, the KZN Economic Development and Tourism MEC, who joins us now. Good morning to you, MEC, and thank you for your time. I imagine that if anyone would know that there are processes that have been triggered that will have the ultimate effect of the Prudential Authority withdrawing from these processes, these court processes that are already in play towards the liquidation of Ithala, it would be you. Are you aware of this agreement and the pulling back from those processes?
Not at all, Thulasizwe. I'm not aware. I was as taken aback as the rest of the public was at the pronouncement by the ANC. And that is why I issued a statement, because in the government of provincial unity, members of the ANC are there serving as MECs. We discussed this matter last Wednesday. They were not in a position to brief us as the provincial executive council on any breakthrough. Therefore, I felt that this is just rubbing salt into the wounds of the depositors, because after all, at the end of the day, I might be ANC, we might be ministers, we might be prudential authority, but we are talking about people's hard-earned money that they can't access.
Could it be that there's a deal that has been reached and you've just been looped in? And if that is the case, would that be regular, given your department's position in relation to the shareholding of Ithala Bank?
Instead, I don't think there is a deal. On July 25, there is the first of the 4 court cases over which Ithala and my department are holding by the Prudential Authority together with the repayment administrator. And therefore, in light of what is going on, we are busy preparing for that court case in the Pietermaritzburg High Court. How could there be a deal when we are being informed by the lawyers of the Prudential Authority and the repayment administrator that we will meet in court on the 25th of July. So I don't know what the ANC is talking about.
So for clarity then, you are one of the respondents, or let me say cited parties in the various pieces of litigation that are happening. So if there's a pulling away from that litigation and the processes, you would naturally need to be informed, no?
Indeed, I'm one of the cited as the shareholder of the bank, and therefore we have nothing. I checked with our lawyers. They said they don't know anything about it, and so I was cautioning. I'm saying let this not be a matter that is turned into a political football. At least we should respect the depositors, because at the end of the day, they are at the center of what is going on.
Practically, is it still possible to save the bank from liquidation, given everything that needs to happen? The question of whether or not it is technically and factually and legally insolvent on the one hand, but also on the other hand, issues around its licensing and the lack of a banking license.
Well, your guess is as good as mine, because in the absence of the banking license, in the absence of anything that legitimizes the operations of Ithala as a deposit-taking institution, I, in my position, can't say that I can save Ithala, because the protagonist who want to liquidate Ithala is not ourselves, but it's the regulatory authorities, and they are acting within their powers, which is why really I said that we have spoken at length more than 4 times with the Minister of Finance. He said, look, I might be the Minister of Finance, the Reserve Bank and the Prudential Authority must be seen to be independent bodies. I don't want to interfere with them, which is why it surprised me about this turnaround.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Reverend Musa Zondi, KZN Economic Development and Tourism MEC, weighing in on that matter. Very quickly, you know what would help this situation? Just some clarity from the Minister of Finance. Simple. Issue out a statement. Is there an agreement to save Ithala from liquidation? How will it work? How does it work in relation to the independence of the Reserve Bank and the Prudential Authority? Just save us all from all this speculation and confusion. Just come out. Just say it. If there is an agreement, great, fair and fine, and we all move on. But if there isn't an agreement, as the MEC there has raised it, you owe it to us to just clarify all of these matters. All right, let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, Tsundiso Makaka's killer set to be sentenced today, and Israeli Prime Minister sees opportunities to free Gaza hostages. Good morning. The Pietermaritzburg High Court in KwaZulu-Natal is today set to sentence one of the individuals implicated in the July 2017 murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Tsundiso Makaka. Sibusiso Ngengwa pleaded guilty to murder as well as to charges of attempted murder and malicious damage to property. NPA spokesperson Natasha Ramkison Kara.
On 6 June 2025, Sibusiso Ngengwa admitted to the July 2017 shooting in the Umzimkhulu area. He also admitted to the other charges of attempted murder, malicious injury to property, and the joint unlawful possession of firearm and ammunition. The case against the co-accused, namely Mayeza and Mpofana, returns to court on 6 October 2025 for trial. Mlungisi Mkalane, who was subsequently declared unfit to stand trial, is currently admitted at a psychiatric facility.
Commuters in Johannesburg are protesting the change in the payment system used by Metro Bus. The situation is tense at Gandhi Square in the Johannesburg CBD. Commuters are expected to march to the Metro Bus offices, demanding a return to the old system. They raised a list of grievances, among them the new payment system, which they say makes travelling expensive. This protester says they are disgruntled because the current system charges them multiple times for using different bus routes.
With the system that we currently have, it was easy because I have to buy trips prior. Mind you, I have to pay about 900 something so that I can get the trip for the whole month. So it was easy because with one trip, I would get to Gandhi. Then from Gandhi to 4 Ways, I will have a transfer. So meaning now, from home to work, I use only one trip. Then from work heading home, it's also another trip. And now they want to cancel all of that, which yes, as much as it was expensive, but it was more reasonable. But now paying twice going to work, now it's kind of be more expensive, which it doesn't make sense.
ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula has disputed accusations that the party is using the national dialogue to try and retain power. Mbalula was speaking on the sidelines of the OR Tambo Regional Conference in Umtata in the Eastern Cape yesterday. The DA has withdrawn from the dialogue in protest at the treatment it says it has received from President Cyril Ramaphosa. The DA says Ramaphosa fired a DA deputy minister but continues to protect corrupt ANC cabinet ministers. The DA says it's also considering a motion of no confidence against Ramaphosa. But Mbalula says the ANC won't tolerate the DA's threats.
There's no such a thing. National dialogue was proposed by civil society, which we supported. There's no such a thing as using national dialogue to capture the imagination of the people. It is a South African thing. It is led by government working with all other civil society organizations. Hence, we support. There's no ANC that is leading the national dialogue. It's a false, pronunciation that has been made by the DA, of which the reality, this dialogue is about the interest of the people of South Africa.
The Gauteng Department of Infrastructure is in a court battle with some residents of Diepkloof in Soweto who have unlawfully occupied the Bahumane Primary School. The school closed down in the early 2000s due to low learner numbers. The residents then turned the school into housing units in 2018. Despite them sharing communal taps and toilets with no access to electricity, they've refused to leave. They want government to provide them with houses. Provincial Infrastructure Department spokesperson Theo Nkonki.
We've gone to court and we've served eviction notices to the residents who are staying there.
Obviously, we don't want to do this in an inhumane manner. We want to make sure that we work with every stakeholder that is involved to make sure that we comply with the law, but also we are humane in how we remove those residents. We are working with the city of Johannesburg, who obviously, according to the law, are then supposed to help us with finding alternative accommodation for the residents who are staying there.
And finally, Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel's 12-day conflict with Iran has improved the chances of freeing hostages still being held in Gaza. The Israeli Prime Minister was speaking to members of the Domestic Intelligence Agency. The BBC's Y. Davies has the details.
The Israeli military has warned it will escalate operations with extreme force to destroy Hamas's remaining capabilities. But in what could be interpreted as an indication of some flexibility, Benjamin Netanyahu today said that after victory over Iran, many opportunities had opened up, first of all to rescue the hostages and defeat Hamas. That emphasis on hostages first was welcomed by their families as a sign that perhaps the Prime Minister might be prepared to strike a deal to end the war.
Recapping the top story, the Pietermaritzburg High Court in KwaZulu-Natal is today set to sentence one of the individuals implicated in the July 2017 murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary-General Sindiso Makaka. For SAFM News, I'm Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
This just in, Zandile, a 36-year-old woman, has added an unbelievable 918 rand a month more money to her budget. That's right, she switched to Outsurance and now saves 918 rand a month on her 2024 Cherry Tiggo 1.5 litre. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. You always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, it's rugby coach Rassie Erasmus says we need to keep calm after the win over the Barbarians. Says there's plenty of work to do. And in cricket action, the Proteas, they are in command. They have a 216-run lead in Bulawayo. Details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Joburg. M1 North under pressure. 2 crash scenes. One before Malapongwe, one at William Mandela. It's a joint up queue from 14th Avenue all the way round to Four Ways. Mike 1's fairly busy today from Boyson's right through to about Oxford Road at Parktown. The N3 is heavy coming out of Alberton, right through Gillilees past an earlier crash up towards Modderfontein. And the N12 from Benoni through Boxburg, quite slow go as well. The N1 North is queuing up into the New Road exit. That will surprise you. Durban breakdowns. N2 North at Gateway. So quite a heavy backlog coming up from Kwamashu into that one. Also breakdown south at Sabaya, causing a delay arriving in from the airport. Cape Town, N1, Plattercliff to Marine Drive, quite busy. The other highway standout really is the M5 today from Rondebosch. It's jamming all the way up to that N1 highway at the Kuberg. Get a change. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
10 minutes after 8 on this Monday, it is great to be in your company. We're into the third hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief. We've lit a few conversational fuses and the conversation is exploding in multiple directions. Key among those has been the conversation around the arrest recently and the appearance in court of the head of crime intelligence and as well as other senior officials within that unit. We touched on it with Ian Cameron, the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police. Someone here says it's an entrenched syndrome in our crime intelligence services. Only the finest local investigative journalism has the power to lift the lid. More power to you on radio. Fight for your budgets, salaries and ethics there at the embattled SABC, says this one person on that particular story, lumping together 2 or 3 different themes, and I don't mind that at all. That's the one input that has come through. We've also, of course, been reflecting on the media briefing that was held by the Democratic Alliance, as well as the decisions that it has taken in relation to its ongoing participation within the Government of National Unity. I did say that Ville Ocamp confirmed with me that they will be forwarding a name to President Cyril Ramaphosa to consider for the appointment of Deputy Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition following the dismissal of Andrew Whitfield. But the DA is withdrawing from participating in the national dialogue, as well as saying that they will not be supporting the budget votes of those members of the executive, the cabinet ministers who will be presenting their budget votes, who are tainted in the eyes of the DA. So that's that then, in as far as the GNU is concerned. We played you a conversation that Elvis Preslin had with Helen Ziller, the Federal Council chairperson of the DA. In this hour, among what we will cover, I did ask you earlier on, what's your Route 1 go-to source for news and information and, I suppose, analysis and insights? And that's in the wake of the 2025 Reuters Institute Digital News Report. It has found that, South African audiences are moving away from traditional news sources like print and broadcast and increasingly turning to social media and video platforms for their news. The report revealing that 33% of South Africans now use TikTok for news, as well as 42% relying on YouTube. So we'll have a conversation with Chris Roper within this hour. Do weigh in on these and other conversations. I'll take your calls on 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. Let's get the third hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matriek mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Attention grant beneficiaries. Couldn't switch your SASSA Gold card for the new Postbank Black card? No worries. Your SASSA Gold card is still valid and fully functional. You'll continue receiving your grants safely and securely. No need to change your card or switch banks. Use it as usual at ATMs, retailers, and spaza shops. Don't be misled by anyone claiming you must switch banks. Your money is safe with Postbank, a bank where banking can be completely free. Stay informed and stay safe. Postbank, your bank.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's waste no time and go straight to the calls. Linda in Boksburg, good morning to you. You want to talk about the firing of the Deputy Minister?
Yes, Thulasizwe, good morning.
Oh, it's Linda, not Linda.
Linda.
Linda, please go ahead.
Yes. Listen, the firing of the deputy ministers has nothing to do with the so-called express permission to travel. And I can trace this back to Winnie Mandela quickly. And you don't need an expert to analyze this. Mm-hmm. It's a simple thing. During Winnie Mandela's time, besides being a former wife of the president then, the issue was that she was a constant critic, fierce critic of that government of national unity at the time. Mm-hmm. She wasted no time wherever she was to criticize that type of government, and she had no respect for it.
Mm-hmm.
So the president then, Nelson Mandela, got tired of her, and he had to do something about it.
Yeah.
Number one, because it was embarrassing for the government. Mm-hmm. You go to Mazala Rutledge, she was a staunch, opposition of the Mbeki stance on the HIV and AIDS issue. And also, she was a deputy to one of the staunchest allies of Mbeki, which was Mato Mazala. There was a fallout basically came out as a result of her visit.
Manto Chabalala Msimang, yeah?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Manto Chabalala Msimang. She went to a visit in the Eastern Cape at Cecilia Makiwane Hospital, and the things she found there, she went vocal about it.
Yeah.
And Mbeki was not impressed. And he had to find something to dismiss her. You come to Andrew Whitfield, it's clear the daggers are drawn around the issue of the Lotto issue. It's a clear thing. It has nothing to do with anything.
Sure. Gotcha.
Politicians are what they are. They tell you things that don't exist for the mere fact that they want to cover up for things that really are reality in all of
All right. No, that makes sense. Thank you for that. That's Linda there making the point that there's always some underlying issue where you then have this issue about express permission to travel abroad being foregrounded. Of course, the presidency has rebutted the argument that says there's more to this, that it may have to do with questions being asked about the contract for the running of the National Lottery and the links to the deputy president and some of his friends and acquaintances, but the presidency pushing back against that. But Linda there convinced that there's something to that, because for him, this is just, there's always something behind the decision other than what is officially presented. Bonagele in Kailicha, good morning. You want to talk to me about the Premier of the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyan?
Absolutely. A very good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
You know, I was actually shocked, disturbed, and something that was really confusing, which I don't really understand how people look at things. You know, for instance, I will ask you a question. If your son is going to the mountain, you understand, so to initiation school.
Yes.
What is the father expected to do? Not to take a leave and look after his son?
Yeah.
I'm just asking, because people are criticizing Mabuyane, criticizing Premier Mabuyane because of the disaster that happened or occurred in Mthatha. You remember?
Yes.
More than 100 people died.
Yes.
But for him being the premier, I mean, his son is going to the initiation school and then he takes a leave.
Yeah.
People are criticizing him for that.
I'm
not sure whether they criticize him because they have this tendency of criticizing the ANC at all times. For instance, with regard to, because there is this hatred, hating the ANC so much, because Mabuyane is the premier and is a member of the ANC. To me, it just doesn't make sense.
I'm glad you raised that point, when Abonagel, and I'll tell you why. Yes. Because this requires the appreciation of someone who appreciates the role of the father in that coming of age ceremony and process. Because Vusiwe Khaya Sikweja Mawawa called in when that criticism was raised on this show, I think last week, and basically didn't want to go into a lot of detail, but said,
you did talk about this.
He absolutely did, but I did see that
you already discussed about it.
We did, but I do see that the debate has continued, and I suppose it needs a sharing of the appreciation of the role of the father, that he simply can't be substituted. And of course, in fairness, Vusiwe Khaya did outline that in the early phases of the response, the premier was there and arguing that he simply can't then not be there for his son. So I've seen a lot of debate around that.
And just to add on that, he does not really need an explanation. If you actually submit a leave form, you take a leave because your son is going to initiate, that is what he's supposed to do. That is expected of a father to do. So people just criticizing, hate the ANC at all costs, you know.
Bonagele, very quickly before I let you go, I think the criticism says, and this is where the appreciation of the role of the father in these processes will help all of us. The criticism says, if I was on leave, on study leave or vacation leave or any other kind of leave, I would immediately cancel my leave and come back as the lead official in the province to lead the response to the disaster. So I think that's where, we need to then appreciate why this is not an option in this particular instance.
Yes, I'm happy that you understand what I was trying to talk about. You understand?
Right.
As well as the people who will jump from one party to another would think people will believe on them. I'm talking about Shivambo and his friends.
I've got to move on. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay,
thanks, Bonagele. That's Bonagele Mkhayelicha. Let me go to Salim in Durban. Good morning to you, Salim. You want to talk to me about Ithala Bank?
Yes, son. You see, Ithala Bank been put into a trap. They were operating without a license. Now, they suddenly now say that they don't have a license and they didn't comply or whatever. See, Ithala Bank is a bank that serves mostly, the rural community, the underbanked, and sometimes the very poor community, and they have the very kind of simple accounts, not sophisticated, that the people can understand and the people, can use. Now suddenly, you go to court, you close the bank, and for months now, people can't get the money. This is so unfair. And so unnecessary because it's a bank to serve the people. Yeah. Ithala Bank has helped so many developing young people that wanted to start businesses, get into farming, get into industries, and they gave them startup. Yeah. I work for Ithala Bank, so I know Ithala Bank. I served in a bank. So end of the day, they are not considering the people, particularly the poor upcoming people, the people that need that kind of simple banking services, and they simply gone to the court. And why is it in the court's hand to decide? It's the government, it's the finance department's decision to decide. Why is it, put in abeyance? Why is it suspended for so long?
All right. Salim, let's leave it there for this morning. That's Salim in Durban, raising questions about the processes that are unfolding around Ithala Bank.
The citizens and the believers are in a high-level clash of emotions. Drama meets tension. The fight for 3 points is real. This is the PSL Promotional Playoffs. Catch the thrilling encounter between Cape Town City and Castrick Stars this Monday, 30 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Some interesting insights coming through from the 2025 Reuters Institute Digital News Report. Part of what it's revealed in relation to news consumption in this country is that South African audiences are moving away from traditional news sources like print and broadcast and are increasingly turning to social media and video platforms for their news. The report reveals that 33% of South Africans now use TikTok for news, while 42% rely on YouTube, among the highest rates on the continent. Let's bring in Chris Roper, who is Deputy CEO at Code for Africa. Good morning to you, Chris, and thank you for your time. So, fascinating insights. What do they reveal about the shifting preferences of audiences in terms of how they would like their news to be delivered?
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me. So I guess the main takeaways, including the ones you've mentioned, are that people are now consuming their news much more on social media and on video platforms, which means, a further diminution of the influence of traditional media. The other big takeaways, I think, are that chatbots that are powered by generative AI are growing in terms of how people are accessing news information, and that's especially true for people that are under 35, that are younger. So those, I think, are some of the big takeaways. The other ones that are perhaps more encouraging for traditional media are that despite the fact that audiences are using social media so much more to access the news, they're very skeptical about the news they find there. So quite a few of them are still turning to traditional news sources to find trusted news.
So that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think the debate around trust in traditional news sources is part of the debate, but at the same time, you are saying issues of trust and authenticity, I suppose, also come up when you talk about the newer sources, the more digital sources of media, of news media that are emerging.
Yeah, and I think two stats that really stand out for me. One is that so first of all, this report covers 100,000 people in 48 countries. When I asked those people in 48 countries, do you trust your ability to know what is real or what is fake online? South Africa was, like, I think, in the top 3 of countries where people are worried about what's true and what's false online, and way above the global average. So that's one interesting fact, that even though our consumers are looking to social media for news, they're very, very worried about what's real and what's fake online. And then in terms of trust, South Africa, when we asked, do you trust your news in your country, South Africa is well ahead of the global average. So only 40% of people in the 48 countries we looked at, only 40% of them said they can trust the news, whereas in South Africa that's 55%, and which makes us, I think, 5th in the list of countries where media is trusted. And interesting enough, number 2 and 3, I think, are Nigeria and Kenya. So the African countries, there's opportunity there. News is still trusted in the African countries that we look at.
So news executives, owners of news media companies, traditional news media companies, how should they read and respond to these insights that are coming through in terms of how they play better within the digital space, but also at the same time do what digital does in terms of delivering the news in a convenient manner, in a manner that is responsive to the needs of audiences?
Yeah, I think one of the other insights was that out of the 48 countries we looked at, South Africa came number 1 in terms of interest in local news. So 60% of people were asked in South Africa said they were interested in local news. So I think that's one opportunity. Another interesting stuff which makes South Africa a bit of an outlier is that South Africans are way more comfortable with news that is being AI generated than any other country in the world. So I think those are 2 opportunities for our local news publishers, for our domestic news publishers. The one is that we still have an element of trust, a high level of trust with our audience. We need to make sure that we keep that community alive and service them. But also we need to look more towards local news. I think the Daily Mavic, for example, is just about to open up a Nelson Mandela Day bureau. So they too have picked up that message. And I mean, the other thing is that we need to tighten up our journalism standards.
Yeah.
Because if audiences are looking to traditional news to find out the truth, we need to make sure that we don't mess up that relationship as well.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Chris Roper, Deputy CEO at Code for Africa.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. We'll start with rugby after the 54-7 rout of the Barbarians in Cape Town. Coach Rassie Erasmus quick to warn there's still work to be done. He's praising the squad depth. The game time as well is something he emphasised, and he's looking ahead to the tests against Italy and Georgia.
Certainly some guys showed us that they can do it at this level, but we'll layer them in to make sure there's a balance. I think guys like Damien, Jesse, Kirtley, a bit undercooked because he got back. He hasn't really played in a lot of matches either in Japan or didn't come back to the Bulls. We'll try to strike the balance right that when we're done with Georgia, we've got a group of 45-50 that got some game time.
Now, cricket action, the Proteas in firm control of the first test. They have a 216-run advantage with 9 wickets remaining. After declaring on 418 for 9, the Proteas dismantled Zimbabwe for 251. They closed the day at 49 for 1. That's in the second innings. And motorsport news, Lando Norris held off a race-long challenge from his McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri to win the Austrian Grand Prix and lift his Formula One title hopes. Charles Leclerc was third for his third podium finish in 4 races, with Ferrari teammates Lewis Hamilton fourth. Defending champion Max Verstappen was hit by Kimi Antonelli on the opening lap, ending his race. But here's the race winner. That's Lando Norris.
And I had to keep using my battery to try and get him out of DRS. And every time I tried to get my battery back up, he got it closer and he had a go at me. So I was just in a very vulnerable position for the first 20 laps. We had some good moments, some close moments, that's for sure. But exciting ones, ones where we're very much on the edge and we're pushing. It's never going to be perfect. It's very difficult to ever be perfect, but we had good battles today. It was fair, it was clean.
We'll shift gears and check in with John Gericke at 12:30 for the F1 Grid. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, a 40-year-old man arrested in connection with the killing of his 87-year-old mother at Sibora village in Limpopo is this morning expected to make his first appearance at the Seshego Magistrates Court. The Pietermaritzburg High Court in KwaZulu-Natal is today set to sentence one of the individuals implicated in the July 2017 murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary-General Sindiso Magaqa, and the former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has called for amnesty for hundreds of people sentenced to prison for their involvement in riots in the capital more than 2 years ago. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Joburg motorists on the N1 North really battling through some heavy traffic this morning from 14th Avenue all the way up to the four-ways exit. There's some roadworks and a crash between Beyers Nordia and Malabongwe Drive, so that's heavy. And then as soon as you get out of that, you stay basically straight into it again, into a crash between Malabongwe and William Mandela Drive. The Mike 1 unusually backed up from Boysons through to Parktown this morning as well. R21 from the airport going up to Pretoria, or from Pretoria to the airport looking fine. Durban, couple of breakdowns in the way. The N2 North has just been cleared from the obstruction at Mhlanga. That breakdown's out of the way. It's a little bit sluggish as you get up from Komashi, but it should be improving. The N2 South has the breakdown at Sibaya, causing a backlog if you're driving into Durban from the airport. Cape Town still pretty backed up out of Tableview. Lights are down Bloberg Road at Kuberg Road, so that's causing a massive delay from sort of Wood Drive side. Also Gee Road backlogging into that traffic on Bloberg Road. And if you're going the other way from Bayside Mall, it's all jammed into Dolphin Beach. The N1 into town from Parow through to about Marine Drive is pretty sluggish, and the M5 is packed out this morning from Rondebosch up to Kuberg, up to the Kuberg interchange, and it looks like something's just happened on Nelson Mandela Boulevard coming through Hospital Bend in towards Cape Town. There's some traffic just sort of being held up there around the Bend area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
One more update then from Dowling before we go. Dowling, let's start with some M&A activity. Tell me about Lesaka acquiring Bank Zero.
That's right, Thulas. The fintech group has acquired 100% of the digital bank Bank Zero in a deal valued at just over R1 billion. The acquisition will be settled through a combination of newly issued shares equivalent to about 12% of Lesaka's shareholding and up to R91 million in cash. Now, the fintech player that is big in the point of sale system space says by integrating Bank Zero's digital banking infrastructure with its fintech platform, it aims to provide a full suite of banking services, unlock new opportunities, and accelerate product innovation. Now, the acquisition is subject to regulatory approvals from the Prudential Authority, the Competition Commission, and Exchange Control. Upon completion, Bank Zero's leadership, including CEO Yatin Narsai, will remain in place, with the founder of Bank Zero, Michael Jordan, joining Lesaka's board of directors. Now, Lesaka expects the transaction to be earnings accretive and supportive of its long-term balance sheet optimization.
And as far as performance is concerned on the JSE itself leading by example, leading the pack, on track to end the first half on a strong note.
That's right, Thulas, and on track to end the first half of the year, not the first quarter, first half of the year at a nearly 2-decade high. Now, this is driven by surging precious metal prices. The FTSE JSE Africa All Share has risen 14%.
Sorry then, Dowling. I think I got it completely wrong. You're talking about the JSE, not the entity, the JSE. Sorry.
No, not the entity, the JSE. Yes, the board. Rather.
Yes, please go ahead.
All right. The FTSE JSE Africa All Share Index rose 14% so far this year, outperforming emerging markets and the S&P 500 with a 21% gain in dollar terms. Now, this performance largely attributed to the FTSE JSE Precious Metals and Mining Index, which has jumped 74% this year. Gold being one of the commodities really boosting the JSE. It hit multiple record highs, and platinum is up 52%, trading at its highest level since 2014. Analysts have also pointed to optimism on the back of the GNU, even though we've seen some jitters here and there, but they do say it has been boosting a sentiment, while subdued inflation is giving the central bank room to ease monetary policy further. And so they say this could attract more foreign investors to South African stocks, which are cheap relative to emerging market peers. Now, according to a Bank of America survey, 70% of fund managers are bullish on South African equities, with gold miners being one of the most overweight sectors.
Lastly, Dowling, what might Monday hold in store for us in as far as the markets are concerned?
Local markets are likely to stage a recovery today following global peers. In terms of company news, updates from AECI and Property Group Mass. So traders will be waking up to those updates. And then looking at the currency scene, the rand is pretty stable at 17.75 to the dollar this morning. Stateside futures are in positive territory as sentiments improve. Traders will be eyeing employment figures out later this week. And then lastly, in Asia, stocks are on track to end the day mostly in the green, with investors cheering the trade deal between China and the US.
All right, thank you. That's Dowling Lechela. You know how it goes. She's always right on the money, and she has kept you updated on all things to do with the economy, business, and the markets throughout the course of the show today.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals, Kaizer Chiefs greats and Bafana Bafana 2010 FIFA World Cup stars Rene Solonyane and Sipiwe Chabalala take on the food and beverage industry. The legendary duo own one of Soweto's most vibrant hangout spots and invite us to be the tastemakers of the inner workings of their establishment. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 5 July at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, the hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to We Buy Cars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy prams that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. We Buy Cars. Geared for family, geared for you.
The citizens and the believers are in a high-level clash of emotions. Drama meets tension. The fight for 3 points is real. This is the PSL Promotional Playoffs. Catch the thrilling encounter between Cape Town City and Cashrick Stars this Monday, 30 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Let me read one or two messages before I go to the calls. I see all the calls lining up. Mandla, Ntlantla, Victor, Tabiso. I do see your calls. But Mzi says in a message here on WhatsApp, I think just get clarity from the ANC. Remember, they got 17% in KZN in 2024 provincial elections. Suppose they want to campaign to the rural Itala Bank members with lots of question marks. And that's the thing, though, Mzi. We did get clarity from the ANC. We spoke to Mike Mabuyakulu last week, and his assertion is that there is this agreement and Itala will be rescued from liquidation. And I think I posed quite a few questions about how it will all work practically, involving the Prudential Authority, etc., given the factual and legal insolvency status of Itala Bank. I think what would clarify it now and take out all of the politics is for the people at the coalface of the process, right? Because if the liquidation is being withdrawn, who's withdrawing it? The person who brought it in the first place. It would be the Prudential Authority. I did say that the Reserve Bank and the Prudential Authority have not been wanting to give running commentary. So what they do is give a Q&A document and they'll put it up on the website. Admittedly, I've not checked if they've now addressed this particular one, but I think that would be helpful. And most importantly, the person whose name is being invoked here is the finance minister. We are told there's an agreement with him. It would be great to hear from him directly so that there's no confusion about this whole matter. Just come out. Is there an agreement? How will it work out mechanically in terms of pulling back from a possible liquidation of Itala Bank? Then the issue of people getting their news from social media. Someone here says people consume media from social media, YouTube, etc., because mainstream media lies. They spin the stories to suit their narratives. So that's the view of someone there. In fact, it's one of those themes that are dominant in the calls that are coming through. So let me go to Mandla in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Mandla. You want to talk about the same theme? Please go ahead.
Yes, my brother. May God bless you this morning.
Thank you. God bless you too.
Yes, Thulasizwe. You know, Thulas, I've lost interest in radio and television, especially SABC and the rest. You know, they represent ANC. They are the strength of the ANC. You know, you don't get objective views. The anchors that are there, they are the ANC people controlled by ANC and all. You know, there was this question of NHI, Thulasizwe, to show you that these people, their objective, SABC, is not to build a country or help. They are not patriotic. They are aligned to the ANC. During the NHI debate, SABC was obsessed about the DH and who won the NHI every day. They couldn't ask critical questions from the ANC that want to implement NHI. They couldn't. You know, especially on the question of how are you going to fund the NHI? How are you going to fund the NHI? Those questions never, the SABC never asked those questions.
In fairness, let me give you just on that example. I was in Drakensberg, sitting a couple of meters away from Minister Aaron Motsoaledi, and I asked him specifically that question. I can roll the tape, and I work at the SABC. So I know we can go back and forth on various anecdotal incidences, but I'm saying, is it possible for you to conclude that the entire SABC are, I don't know what word you used, basically serving the interests of the ANC? Can you really make that assertion? Have you watched and listened to the various shows that are differently, tailored? Some are straight up and down reporting. Others are more talk format. So you will have strong anchors that are quite opinionated, the likes of Clement Manyatela, who does a show on SABC on TV. Can you really say with confidence that all of us taken together we represent the ANC. Is that really an assertion that you can make and sustain?
I was listening to Samkelo Maseko last night. Samkelo Maseko.
No. Mandla, wait. I don't want to run out of time. I want you to talk about the question that I'm asking you specifically in its totality. Mandla, don't go. Mandla, don't go. We are in conversation. Don't go anywhere. I'm saying to you, in its totality, as the SABC, because that was your assertion, I'm asking you, given the varied show formats, straight up news, analysis, critical voices, your Oliver Dixons that come in and take a critical view on matters, and I cited the example of Clement Manyatela, I'm here, Kethe Motlatlana, various other people on other radio stations, in its totality, is it possible for you to make the assertion that the SABC serves the interests of the ANC and sustain it with evidence?
When some of the journalists here from SABC, they go to become spokesperson of the department in this government department. So your exit from your job is department in this position in this department of the government department. So you cannot be objective when your next employer will be ANC government. You cannot.
Gotcha. I've got to move on, Mandla. Thank you. I think I've engaged you. And I must say, just as a parting shot, that happens even outside of the SABC. And I can tell you, it happens even in the Western Cape, by the way, where the ANC is not the government. You will have people who are former journalists who then move on to become spokespeople in government. I don't know if it advances your argument any further, but I think I have engaged you. Ntlantla in KZN. Good morning. You want to talk to me about TikTok and the news?
My brother, good morning.
Good morning, my brother. It's been a while, man, Ntlantla. You must never desert me, man.
Hey, my brother, sometimes you must give other people a chance.
I hear you.
My brother, let's speak about what the law says. You see, a democracy based upon participative citizens requires the capacity to read all text critically. We can get the news from everywhere.
Yes.
Are we capable of reading the news critically? Analyze everything that is being into us critically. And what Manda is saying, he is partially right, he's partially wrong. Because when he says all, not all, not all. Because SAPC was doing this from the time it started.
Yeah.
The National Party did the same thing with the SAPC. The clerk became just like how Ramaphosa is made. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And my brother, as long as we don't get to participate in what gets to be exposed to us, and understand all the critical messages that is being imposed to us.
Right.
Was it a problem?
Ntlantla, thank you.
SAPC does a lot. It just requires you to be able to read critically.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%, Ntlantla. And I agree with you that continue to hold us accountable as the SABC, right? Because the whole mission is to not be a state broadcaster, but be a truly public broadcaster. Open up these platforms, which we're trying to open up, and let you come on air, including criticizing us. That's fair and fine. Go ahead, do exactly that. But generalizations, as you say, Ntlantla, are always problematic when you make a generalization. Let me quickly take a call from Victor before I go to the traffic. Victor, you want to talk about the initiation processes? I suppose that's founded on the conversation we were having earlier on about Premier Oscar Mabuyan. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, initiation. Once more, it's school holidays, and so we'll see many young Xhosa men or young boys going off for initiation camps. Unfortunately, some will die again, through botched procedures and dehydration, etc. It's a bizarre business. Every year we read about this or hear about it on the radio. However, my point is we don't know what's discussed or installed into the minds of these young men. What we do know, however, is that 2,000 young Natal schoolgirls fell pregnant last year in the school holidays. My suggestion, please tell the Initiation Council to seriously consider including some advice on sex once they are active again. We have a shortage of fathers in our land. Men are not held accountable for their lifestyle, and this breeds poverty. A teenager with a child will in 99.9% mean that poverty for the family. Her mother's probably only in her early 30s herself. The government says nothing, gives a child grant, and the problem just gets bigger each year. The initiation school could be a place where an opportunity to talk to the men about their responsibility as grown men, and something needs to be done to see these girls going through the crisis of childbearing when they're children themselves. You agree with me?
Victor, thank you for that. I do take the point you are making. I must say, though, that I'm happy to respect the sacred, secrecy that is maintained around what is discussed and what teachings are imparted. But the points you are making are important about the social ills in which we need men as these young boys transition from boyhood to manhood. In which, we would want them to be to play an active role in dealing with those. But I'm happy to respect the sacred secrecy that is maintained as per the cultures that practice initiation.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy on Joburg's N1 this morning, moving through Bayers Nordir up to some roadworks and then a crash before Malabongwe, and then an earlier crash which is just being cleared by Winnie Mandela. So really Bayers Nordir up to four-way staying heavy. The Mike 1 from Boyston through Parktown is very slow, and a crash on the N12 at Elan's Interchange coming out of Albert, and that route onto the N3 remains fairly heavy as well. Crossing to Durban, a stationary vehicle at Sabaya. If you're on your way from the airport heading inbound to Durban, there's quite a queue going into that. The M4, the alternative route coming from La Mercy and Slody side down towards Sabaya, quite slow as well. So both your highways Durban bound under pressure. In Cape Town, it's been a pretty gentle sort of traffic morning up until now. Crash on the M1 inbound at Woodstock, just by Lower Church. That's pushing traffic back towards Monte Vista on the highway, and also having an impact behind that on Marine Drive, which is very slow now coming through Pardon Island, trying to join into the M1. You're basically joining straight into that crash. And still busy coming out of Tableview, Malabongwe Drive towards the N7, Marine Drive, West Coast Road to Dolphin Beach, and traffic lights being playing up this morning. Bloberg Road down at Coburg Road, causing delays out towards the refinery. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
They all believe they will be crowned champions, but gold medallions are reserved for the best of them all. It is the incredible clash of the 12 African women's national teams. Catch all the 24 matches of the Cap Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Breaking news just in. Pinky, a 60-year-old woman, slashed 870 Rand a month off her car insurance premium. That's right. Pinky switched to Outsurance and now saves a mind-blowing 870 Rand a month on her 2020 Kia Seltos 1.6. Outsurance clients always get something out. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 0800 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
An insightful exposition of the historical roots of some of the challenges the country continues to face with alcohol abuse, published in the publication The Joburg Reporter by political economy analyst and commentator Bongani Mahlangu. In it, he explores the roots of alcohol abuse through systems such as the so-called DOP or TOT system, the Durban system, and subsequently the emergence of shebeens in townships. He then argues that understanding this historical context is important in grappling with current alcohol abuse patterns in a country where figures suggest we have the world's 5th highest alcohol consumer rates and a significant binge drinking problem. Bongani joins us now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. Talk me through these three systems: the DOP system, the Durban system, as well as the emergence of shebeens. Very briefly, in a nutshell. Then we will turn to how they factor in how we deal with the issues we are dealing with now.
All right, no, thank you. Greetings to you, the colleagues and student listeners at home. So when we start with the DOP-TOT system, so it's a system that would come about especially in or predominantly in the Western Cape around the 16, 17 and 1800s by the settlers, your British settlers, your French settlers, and also your Dutch settlers. So they use the system as a payment system to their laborers or to supplement payment. And they would administer a DOT or a TOT of alcohol even throughout the interval of the day, especially targeting male farm workers. So that obviously over time created dependency and other secondary problems. And then later on in life, in the early 1900s, 1920s or so, we then see what we call the Durban system. And Durban system because it was more like a bylaw, a legislation, which was later adopted by the central government. So the Durban system was basically the municipality's monopoly in terms of the production, distribution of alcohol, sending it to specific places, which were now called beer halls, where the natives in the main were only allowed to consume alcohol, and the profits or proceeds made from those establishments were then used to administer over the same, meaning used to then oppress the same.
Yeah.
So as I said, it went national. So what then happened was that, especially in urban areas, you find that females trying to supplement the meager wages of their husband start now selling alcohol illegally. And it was a combination of Western alcohol, which was the Cape Smoke, or known as the Cape Smoke, and home-brewed alcohol. And now, because of the legislation at the time, since it was illegal trading of alcohol,
the prohibition.
Yes, and the consumers never knew if they will get alcohol again, so they would overconsume. And with the overconsumption comes a heightened demand. And because they have to match the demand, they start experimenting with concoctions in order to ensure that there is rapid production, which means the quality is then compromised and also the health of the consumers is then compromised.
So Bongani, help us understand, and it's a great exposition of the history of the various systems. I read the piece, but how does it help account for the elements of binge drinking that we then see in our society today?
So now the binge drinking then has that historical context that you find even clubs today or pubs today and drinking during the day, and we know that Monday people struggle to go to work and Friday people want to knock off early, and alcohol abuse dependence that we see in our current communities today. So what I was trying to add was that what you see today happening actually has a deep historical context. And what you see today, and it comes across as stereotypical, that certain demographic groups drink or binge drink or abuse alcohol and have nothing else to do with their lives and so forth. Actually, it was due to systematic socialization that stems from 1652. So it wasn't inherent. It wasn't always like that, because if you go before 1652, there was consumption of alcohol, but that was home-brewed alcohol and under strict customary laws, which dictated when to drink, who drinks, and so forth and so on. And people would drink mainly for significant key events in that community, marriages, success in harvest. So there was no recreational drinking, binge drinking, and so forth. So it was under strict guidelines up until the then colonizers come to South African shores and they introduced a new culture of consumption and a new type of alcohol, which still exists and persists to date.
All right. Thank you for that. And I really enjoyed reading the piece. That's Bongani Mahlangu, who is a regular contributor of political economy analysis and commentary. He holds a BCom Economics, BCom Honours in Economics, as well as a Master of Commerce in Economics, and is a graduate of the Northwest University. That's it, really. That's our full and final account to you in lieu of your morning brief on this Monday. Stand by. The Talking Point is up next with Kathy Motlatlana. That's coming up after the news. It will be Oliver Dixon, I am told, who will be coming up with The Talking Point. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and you've been briefed.
In our top stories, Limpopo woman hacked to death allegedly by her son, and Gauteng Health dismisses claims about unclaimed bodies. Good morning. The following story contains graphic information which may upset sensitive listeners, including children. A 40-year-old man arrested in connection with the killing of his 87-year-old mother at Sibora village in Limpopo is this morning expected to make his first appearance at the Seshego Magistrates Court. Police spokesperson Malisela Lidwaba says the suspect allegedly hacked his mother to death and dismembered her body. The motive for the killing is not known.